What's going on? Just a hair before 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Jaguars getting some interviews in to find their next general manager. One of note for Titans fans, former Titans general manager Jon Robinson getting an interview. Robinson also interviewed for the Jets general manager job earlier in the cycle, but has not held a position since being fired by the Titans in 2022. Bengals defensive captain and leading tackler Jermaine Pratt has requested a trade from Cincinnati. They have been devoting resources to keeping their offensive core together. Pratt was close to defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who was fired after last season and since joined the Colts. Pratt ranked 10th in the NFL this past season in tackles with 143 and was one of only 3 players with 140-plus tackles and 6 turnover plays. The other 2 players that accomplished that, Zach Bond and Zaire Franklin. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Thursday morning on 104.5 The Zone starts right here on RKW. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. And around these parts, it is known to us as Friday Junior. 615-737-1045. Jon Robinson is set to interview in Jacksonville as the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. How would that go, and how should we remember his time in Tennessee? Coach Tate McGinnis joins us at 7:20 this morning for his weekly visit. We'll talk about some drafts, some football, and always some life with Titans Radio's head coach. What do you want in your ideal Titans quarterback? Do you want arm strength? Do you want IQ? Do you want big game experience? Do you want marketability and mayonnaise commercials? We'll talk about that coming up at 8:20. And who is closer to a title? Tennessee football or Tennessee basketball? If it is basketball, why do you guys want to fire Rick Barnes so much every time they lose? It is Thursday, February the 13th, Valentine's Day Eve. Good morning. How are we doing?
Good morning. I got a good story this morning.
I can't wait to hear this.
I know.
Let's go.
And it's not weather
I don't even know what it's
involved,
about. You already can't wait to hear.
Exactly.
I'm real with you.
So,
you start to show off like, hey, I got a story to tell.
You got a bar to clear.
Like there's an old album that's a Ready to Die by Biggie. Okay, that says I got a story to tell.
Right.
Okay,
and
it was
just call
about
me Biggie.
Yeah, well, you Biggie this morning. Let's roll with it. Let's go Biggie.
Even though I preferred Tupac a little more over Biggie, but I loved both.
Let's
just make that clear.
I
understand. I'm a West Coast girl, though, so I got to stick with the West Coast
Now
guns.
we get into it.
No pun intended there. So you guys, I've been trying to convince you to go to my class, right? My hot yoga class.
Immediately no.
Right? And Ramon said he might.
I said
Bert
I
said
would.
he might.
Immediately
I'm
no.
going to be honest with you. I would.
So this might get you to go.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to divulge too much because I think that, patience.
We can't tell the whole story
What is
without
that
giving
called?
a lot. Come on now.
You got to keep people a little bit
Let her
safe.
finish.
Okay. So I go to class yesterday. It is not pure yoga on Wednesdays and Saturdays for this class. It's called the HIIT class. So it's, high interval.
Intensity intervals training. Yep.
It's good.
High
it's good
intensity.
stuff.
Yep.
But it's in like 90-degree heat. So it's intense.
And HIIT too?
Yes. So I'm walking in. I go pretty much every Wednesday, Saturday. I'm walking in, and then behind me, I hear like an Australian accent. And I'm going, well, that sounds familiar.
Steve Irwin.
How do I know this accent? Steve, R.I.P.
You
Steve.
shut up.
R.I.P. in peace. What is wrong with you?
So this is going to the place where he has risen from the dead now. He's joined the HIIT class.
Quiet the intrusive thoughts.
He has wrangled up an alligator while we're in class.
Sit on your hands.
Go ahead.
So I turn around, and you can't miss her. She's, first of all, a very beautiful woman, but she is like almost 6 foot. Nicole Kidman. Yeah. And she, with her lovely accent, And she, is ready to get to class, got her yoga mat. Never seen her before in that specific class or studio. So I was kind of excited. I really don't see celebrities around town as much as people ask me always, oh, do you see celebrities? No, I don't. But that was kind of a cool moment. So I came in and sat down my mat, and she sat down right behind me because I was in the front row. And let me just tell you this. She can whoop some butt. That was like the first class I ever saw her in doing that, and it's intense. Like, you got men, women in there that are like flat on their face towards the middle of I had to try to keep up with her. I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm seeing her do these burpees. I'm like, I got to keep going. Like, I got to beat Nicole Kidman here. And I'll say this without saying too much because you got to respect people's privacy, but she kicked butt in that class.
She did.
And to be in a class with like Nicole Kidman, I thought that was pretty damn cool. And she told the instructor afterwards, she was like, it was a love-hate class. She goes, it was very good, but it kicked my butt.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm not the only one who thinks that. So that was pretty cool.
I'd like to say Nicole Kidman joining the show at 9:20.
Yeah. So Nicole, if you're
not
listening,
Steve Irwin.
Keith's listening this morning.
Steve Irwin famously no longer on this earth. So
goodness gracious. But you can't like ignore that Australian accent. Like the minute you hear it, you turn your head.
Had
right?
no idea she was Australian.
Yeah.
Like at any point in my life did I ever think that she was Australian.
And so is Keith Urban.
Keith Urban is Australian?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
The more you know today on the show.
What?
You should have called him Keith Down Under or something. Keith Urban's kind of disingenuous.
Yeah.
What? Hold up, the country music singer Keith Urban?
Well, Toby Keith is British.
Toby Keith, stop.
No, but Keith Urban is Australian.
Well, he was born there. He was a military kid. So
One, Nicole Kidman being an actress and being 6 foot tall, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that also she was dating a short king too, and Tom Cruise for a while.
Well, and Keith Urban's small.
Keith Urban's
he's
petite
only
guy?
probably about 5'9", 5'8".
Well, see, Kayla, you also messed up too for this particular reason.
He's
right
5'10".
here. Who? Keith Urban?
Yeah, he's 5'10".
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman's 5'11", according to Google, which
she was born in
wrong.
Honolulu.
She was born in Honolulu. I did see that. But here's the thing, like with folks like her, okay, respectfully, like she got a lot of time on her hand with a lot of resources of people that probably like cook her meals, like make her shakes and smoothies and give her vitamins. So like you trying to keep up with her, like it was commendable 100%, as you should, because look, if I can beat anybody in anything that's more famous than me, I'm trying to do it too.
Sure.
But she's also got a team around her,
Well,
I'm
that's
sure, that
right.
prepares her for that.
Correct.
So don't feel bad by trying to keep up with her when you couldn't. It's cool. Look,
I know.
as long as you ain't pass gas in her face because you was in the front row,
No,
okay? That's
but,
all that matters to me.
people do that in classes,
Those are
which
the-
I just do not understand what
That
people
would be
are
me.
thinking.
I would be farting that room
If
up.
we go, we have to, Bert. I feel like
We need to get-
if an aroma like pops up and they look around, like we have
We
to
know-
raise our
yeah.
hands.
Bring my own candle.
Exactly.
What's that for? Don't worry about
We'll
it.
just do a pre-warning.
And don't ask us to come to the front of the class, Kayla.
No, I need to be in the back.
Who is the biggest celebrity you've seen in the wild in Nashville?
In Nashville? Who? I hadn't seen that many in Nashville. I had to think about that.
That's mine because I really
I
don't
was
see
going to say
any.
that would have to be yours.
I don't see
I'll say,
any.
She is a superstar.
Yeah, she is.
Is she a superstar?
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Her bag is deep.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
looking. She
watch
got an
all of her
Academy Award,
shows.
too.
The new one she did last year, the murder mystery show, is pretty good. The Perfect Couple.
Anything that
Sure.
Who sing that?
There you
And it
go.
must be
It's the theme song.
illegal.
Who sing it?
Megan Trainor sings.
Let her sing it.
I knew that was coming.
Off the top
I knew
rope.
Yeah,
that
you
was
are not
coming.
doing well today until that.
I got a lot of those. I got a lot of those growing up. That's why I don't just sing spontaneously anymore, because I got a lot of, hey, who sings that
I
song?
know.
Let's keep it
I
that
should have
way.
not fallen for that.
Well, I
actually just found out who sang it, so.
I bet. Well, see, that's the reason I don't learn artists' names.
615-737-1045. Most famous person you've seen in Nashville. I will say, when I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods, Luke Bryan came by once.
Oh, that's
It
sweet.
was very nice.
That's very cool.
When they come through, I worked the front end of the register, and you always ask people their phone number to give their like scorecard account. Which, by the way, if y'all don't know, the reason why people do that, you get like graded on that. Like there are some bonuses you
really?
can get if a certain percentage of people put in their rewards account. Like that's why everywhere you go, people are like, "What's your email?"
Gotcha.
Okay, let me make an account for you real quick. And it's kind of annoying
Okay.
because that's how they tell you to do it. But like, you are highly encouraged to do that.
What if I tell you no? Do you get personal with me about that?
No, I just feel like, okay.
Okay, all right.
I'd be scamming that. When I'm off work, I'd be making hundreds of fake emails.
Right?
But I was doing like the front. You always ask people their phone number, and so I didn't even look up. I was like, oh, what's your phone number? And I look up, and I was like, I just asked Luke Bryan for his phone number. And he was like 615, and he gave
Did
it
he
to
really?
me. Yeah, it was actually really cool.
Did you write it down?
No,
Okay.
I would have.
I probably would have too.
I'm not the kind of person that's
randomly.
like often starstruck by celebrities.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
They're just normal people.
Being around athletes, my whole life, covering them since I was like 20 years old, it doesn't really bother me either, except for, I will say, I wasn't starstruck by Nicole Kidman, but I was like, this is kind of a cool moment. I did call my mom.
It's okay to say you starstruck. You call your mama, you definitely were starstruck.
My other one would be when I trick-or-treated as Christmas carolers at Carrie Underwood and Mike Fisher's house.
Yeah. That's big time.
We went trick-or-treating as Christmas carolers, and they opened the door at Mike Fisher, and we were singing, like, Deck the Halls or something, like Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Cool, right?
That's
and
awesome.
he was like, oh, wow, this is awesome.
See, Ramon doesn't have one because he's everybody's. Like,
No.
So when we get calls today, the most famous people you've seen,
you have a
it will
baseball
be
part.
Mr. Ramon Foster.
Mine was most random one ever was seeing, it wasn't here in Nashville because he's locked up now, but it was Suge Knight in Pittsburgh.
What?
Like seeing him in a red jacket.
Suge Knight.
The CEO of Death Row
He's a
Records.
dangerous
The one
man.
that was over Tupac and Biggie and Snoop and Dr. Dre and stuff. Not Biggie, but Tupac.
So he would know where Tupac still is then?
He knows where bodies
they
are
say
buried.
Puff
Let's
Daddy
just say
does.
that.
So if Tupac's body was buried, he would know what it was.
Yes.
So he knows which country he's living in right now.
Pretty much.
No,
just kidding.
he
I'm
wouldn't.
just
No.
continue.
But seeing Suge in a red jacket, smoking a cigar, his most
Is he
iconic,
big?
he was a former football player. Suge's I think like 6'3", 6'4", like big dude. Yeah, so he was
it always
intimidating.
seemed that he's a big dude.
Yeah. And that was by far one of the coolest. Meeting Snoop also was one of those. Here in
that'd be
Nashville,
cool.
though, how
Snoop,
about
you should have led with
I
that.
know. I love Snoop.
Snoop is great.
Well, to me, Suge was the bigger item because he had so much controversy behind him.
Yeah.
But like Snoop is the bigger item, though. Like dapped him up and everything too. So that was kind of cool. But here in Nashville, I hadn't ran into too
In
many
all
folks
the nice
like that.
restaurants you go to?
I'm ducked off, Kayla. And then again, I don't recognize people's face like by their face card most times either. I was just
Yeah,
like, oh,
that's
okay,
true.
whatever. And then if I do somebody mention something, I'm not about to go seek them out and be like, let me get a visual.
We already got our first one. D.O. on Twitter says, Ramon Foster at First Watch in Hendersonville.
See?
Biggest celebrity. Y'all got to
gonna
raise
lead
your
the way.
expectations. You got to
people.
raise your standards.
Hey, Bert, how about
You
you?
got to get out more.
Hey, my people, man. Shout out to my folks in Hendersonville.
I don't ever really see anybody that
know.
famous. I'm kind of a hermit.
so much.
But Cheyenne is she works in the hotel industry,
Oh,
so
yeah.
she checks a lot of people in. She's seen like Nick Swartzen, like any big comedians. They always
Okay.
say Nick Swartzen is the guy off Reno 911. If you saw a picture of him, you'd be like, oh, that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's just another C-list celebrity.
Fair enough.
Maybe Nikki Glazer when she comes into town to do her show.
She's
I'm
seen Nikki
obsessed with
Glazer. I am also obsessed with Nikki Glazer. I don't understand everyone's infatuation with hating on her. I feel like
either.
anytime
People
she's
hate
done
on
a
her?
good job, yes,
guess.
people are not a big
She's
fan
a
of her.
comedian.
Really?
But if you listen to her Howard Stern interviews,
Yeah, it's really good.
All the work she's done, the Tom Brady roast. I mean, she's just been killing it. I'm a
Kev-
big fan.
Kevin Hart is one of those dudes too. Wiz. I met Mac.
Did he have to stand on a...
It is so funny how Ramon
Platform.
led this off with like, I don't really meet a lot
I
of
know, and then
celebrities.
he
And
just
then
goes
just
off.
unveils a 5-star
Wiz.
oh yeah, Mac Miller's a really cool guy.
Right.
Like, shut up.
Mac Miller.
You would trade all of those for Pittsburgh's newest celebrity hangout, Glorilla.
Big Glow. Oh, easily.
She's from Memphis. What do you know about her?
How many Steelers games does she go? She's a
She went
Steelers
to,
fan,
like,
though.
4 of them this year, which is a lot of games if you think about
What's
it.
her connection?
She's in Memphis. Memphis is a huge
so she just-
Steelers hub
got it,
over
got
there.
it.
Yeah.
Got
She
it.
said her folks was raised on it too.
That's a
went in
damn shame.
A smoky room with Wiz Khalifa. Also, Kevin Hart before he blew up.
Who's the
party with
nicest
him.
nicest one of these you met?
Nicest? Probably Snoop.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Snoop was
that
probably
sounds
the
about
nicest.
right.
Yeah,
D.O.G..
Snoop, D.O.G. was definitely one of the nicest
He's
ones.
a heck of an athlete, too.
Hell
Sneaky.
no, Snoop ain't no
seriously.
athlete. No.
Yes.
His son is.
Yes.
I don't know if he is.
No, I don't think they were either.
He played in a flag football game a couple years ago. But the man got speed.
No, that's because people let celebrities win. That's what his problem was.
I still think he's got some athleticism.
He does.
Oh, he
in
ran
his
a
lungs.
200-meter exhibition race at the 2024 Olympic trials, finishing in 34 seconds.
34
What
seconds.
does
That
that
is
mean?
not fast.
Ran into ASAP Rocky
Well.
also before he blew up. ASAP Rocky was another one.
Is this all in Pittsburgh?
I don't think much of
That's
our
Atlanta.
listening
Okay.
audience knows who that is.
Yeah. I met a lot of people
The
before
YouTube
they
chat
blew
one.
up.
That's cool.
Yeah.
615-737-1045. We knew Jon Robinson before it blew up in Nashville. Not my best transition. He is going to interview as the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager. How should we remember his time here, and what do we think about his fit in another AFC South spot? We'll talk about it next.
It's the month of romance, good people. Valentine's is almost here tomorrow, actually, man. So you're looking for the most thoughtful, most romantic gift for the one you love this Valentine's. At Genesis Diamonds, celebrating love is their specialty. Maybe it's a simple pendant, or maybe it's an exquisite, one-of-a-kind designer ring. Well, Genesis can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion. And to make it even sweeter, now until Valentine's Day, whether you spend $399 or $399,000, Genesis will give you some chocolate, some fresh flowers, and dinner out at no charge, okay? It's a one-stop shop for the ultimate Valentine's experience. So when you buy any piece of beautiful jewelry, $399 and up, Genesis will give you a bouquet of flowers, a gift card for dinner at a fancy pants restaurant too, man, and some chocolates, all right? So don't mess around. Get to Genesis Diamonds today. See their spectacular collection of rings, earrings, pendants, bands, bracelets, and more. Their non-commissioned experts will also help you find that perfect thing that will celebrate your love, all right? And Genesis will even throw in the chocolates, flowers, and dinner at no charge. So happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs. Also on limited quantity, so see store for details.
RKW on 104.5 The Zone, hour number one, kicking off your Thursday morning. Coach Dave McGinnis coming up at 7:20 this morning, and plenty of room for your calls at 615-737-1045. Going to talk about Jon Robinson interviewing with the Jacksonville Jaguars as their general manager. But first, in honor of Kayla having a yoga class with Nicole Kidman, who is the most famous person that you've interacted with in Nashville, and were they nice? Wesley is in Nashville. First up. What's up, Wesley?
Good morning, gentlemen. Kayla, how are you guys doing today?
Hey.
Good.
Excellent. So, first off, I got to tell you, if you're looking for celebrities in Nashville, they're all at Chick-fil-A. So I used to work at Chick-fil-A. I've seen Haley from Paramore.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen
Haley
Jason
Williams.
Aldean. I've seen, oh my goodness, Luke Bryan. And then I wasn't there, but my brother was working one day, and he said PK Subban and Lindsey Vonn were in back when he was working. So they're all hanging out at Chick-fil-A. But the person I was calling about, my favorite story, this just blows me away every time I think about it. This is quasi in the wild, so bear with me. But I was 15 years old, just got my learner's permit, and our youth pastor was getting pictures made for the church directory. My dad was the one taking the photos. He asked for me to drive the van so that he could take some pictures of the youth minister on his motorcycle. Doing that, looks great. The guy says, hey, can we go over to my friend Brad's house and take some pictures on his farm? Sure, why not? So we go, taking pictures on Brad's farm. We get ready to leave, and here comes this nice, I don't know what it is, F-250. It's been a few years ago now, but big, nice F-250, and here comes Brad and his wife, Kimberly, getting out of the car. They ask us if we're hungry. They ask if we're thirsty or anything. We're like, yeah, sure. So we go up to their house. They give us cookies. They give us lemonade. We sat there and just talked for like an hour, just me and my dad, and then the youth pastor, his wife, and Brad and Kimberly. We leave. My dad's like, hey, do you know who that was? And I was like, yeah, it's Brad and Kimberly. He's like, yeah, do you know who Brad is? I was like, no idea. I was 15. I was completely oblivious. But now every time I see a billboard with Brad Paisley and Kimberly Williams, I've had their lemonade, and I was completely oblivious.
love that.
They could not have been nicer people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely could not have been nicer people.
Was it fresh
I heard they're
squeezed
pretty nice.
lemonade?
Was it fresh squeezed?
You know what? I did not ask Miss Williams how the lemonade was prepared, but it was delicious. I will say that.
That's a great story.
awesome
Thank you,
right
Wesley.
there.
That's
great
That's
story.
dope right there, man.
That was
Everybody loves the Lord's chicken at Chick-fil-A, even
Right?
celebrities. They're just like us.
That's how you know famous people ain't got nothing going on, because I ain't hanging out talking to nobody I don't know for an hour. I don't even like talking to people I know for an hour. But speaking of celebrities in the wild, real quick before we get back to it, did you guys see Kid Rock made an appearance at his bar last night?
God. He
did.
So they were singing Rolling, and he starts clapping above his head, right?
Oh, jeez.
Nobody's clapping with him. He's like, all right, bleep y'all then. I'm leaving. He was on stage for about 45
Wait, are you
seconds.
serious?
They dogged him out.
Before he left, yeah, he's like, if y'all ain't gonna clap, I'm out of here.
Wow.
Kid Rock don't play no games.
At his own bar.
Right, at his own bar. I mean,
Damn.
to everyone else's credit, it's a Wednesday.
Love that
That's
for him.
true.
Kid, can I call you kid? It's not their fault they're not clapping.
Sir,
it is.
this is a
It's a
Wendy's
Wednesday.
restaurant.
Yeah.
This is a
And
Wednesday,
it's
Kid
raining,
Rock.
Come
sir.
on.
Will you please leave? So we
Somebody
can
else
hear what
that
you sing?
people here are not clapping for, Jon Robinson.
Oh. Look at you.
That was good. I don't get it.
You've had worse.
Not good.
I
had
thought
much
it
worse,
was
and you will again.
mediocre.
No.
That was a hard
Below
transition.
the line,
Seven
Kayla.
out of 10.
Below.
7 out of 10.
Are you serious?
I appreciate
We need
you,
to bring
Bruce.
that rating
Soft.
back for callers, too.
Soft, Will. That
It's in
was
here.
not okay. That was like a 4 out of 10, Bert.
Well, the caller approval rating has got to start above 5 because that was a good call from Wesley.
It really was. Great
It was a
story.
great call.
Jon Robinson will interview as the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports with the report. Of course, was the Titans GM from 2016 to 2022. The Titans fired him on Toy Field. Now 2.5 years ago on December the 6th. I remember it because that's the day I met my lovely fiance, Peyton,
Yes.
whose voice was on this station yesterday. That's a separate conversation. We have heard about this for quite some time. It is clear that Jon Robinson's camp has been angling hard to get another position. This was one that was of particular interest, and now it appears that he will at least get an interview. Initial thoughts, guys. What do you think?
Makes sense. It does. Absolutely. Jon Robinson's going to get back on the saddle. Like at some point, Jacksonville's also late to the party as far as finding these people, these executives that understand how this league works. And what I will say is I saw Jon Robinson at the Senior Bowl. He has been scouting and looking around and trying to be in the mix himself. So he's not removed from the game. He's understanding what this world still is. I didn't even notice him at first, too. It was me, Coach Mack, and Rhett sitting there, and he's just sitting around. I was just like, who's Coach Mack talking to? And he didn't turn around again. I was just like, okay, well, Jon friggin' Robinson's right there doing some, getting some visuals on some guys this past Senior Bowl. So, yeah, it makes sense to me is what I would say initially before we go further.
Yeah, I don't think that there is a plethora of great, GM candidates out there right now. And I think with Jacksonville, like you mentioned, Ramon, being so behind in terms of their process because they really decided to do everything after the initial what they should have done. So I will say this. I am extremely hard on Jon Robinson, and I don't apologize for it because I do truly feel like at the end he dug a deep hole for this franchise that they continue to try to dig out of. However, I will give props when props are due in terms of he made some good moves along his, timeline here with the Tennessee Titans that I think sometimes we do forget about because of all the recent things that he did that stay in our heads.
That fell apart, yeah.
Exactly. So clearly, you hear the things about one of the guys that will make the biggest difference when it's all said and done as a name here, and it's Derrick Henry. He drafted him, right? I mean, he made the move to get Derrick Henry here. As much as he lost a lot of the credit for this, he also did draft A.J. Brown. But then again, he did trade him and didn't pay him to decide to keep him here, which he could have been a big asset. He drafted Jack Conklin, who I know he eventually let go as well because of some injuries. He also had some free agents that he hit on. Danico Autry, Ben Jones, that's a long-time guy that you'll always remember here at the center spot on the line. Roger Saffold, Logan Ryan, and Kenny Vaccaro. Remember what that secondary was at some point? It was really good. Yeah. He signed those guys. So I think those are some things we need to keep in mind where it's not like he made all these bad moves, but recent bias is a real thing. And he did put this team in a deep hole.
7 years as GM, his record as the executive here, if you include all of 2022 and the team he put together, 66-48, 3-4 in the playoffs. The Titans made the divisional round twice. Of course, the conference championship, the AFC title in that 2019 season, and losing in the wild card round in 2020 after that. Winning seasons in every full season that he was the general manager. From 2016 to 2021, if the Jacksonville Jaguars want someone that can build something from nothing, Jon Robinson is a great candidate. If they want someone who can take them to the elite of the AFC, not as good of a candidate. That's where I'm at with Jon Robinson. He built something that was really good here in Tennessee. The step that he and Mike Vrabel could not take was going from good to great.
Sure.
They were unable to make that next leap into the next tier. And to John's defense a little bit, even from day one, he never had his quarterback. We make that excuse for Brian Callahan all the time. And for a lot of people in this league. Marcus Mariota, he inherited. He went and found Ryan Tannehill. He did something that not a lot of general managers can do. He got creative and found a good top 10 of the NFL when he was on quarterback in Ryan Tannehill in those 2020 and 2021 seasons. So I think it's interesting the way he is remembered here, guys, because it is fair. It ended really poorly. Yeah. But at the same time, he built something that's better than anything else anyone has built in Tennessee over the last 15 years. Why?
So the first thing I think of, yes, it did. 100% fact, it ended very poorly for him. But the why is also a part of it for me, too. Considering the year after him, his coach, that he also, I'll say this, brought in Mike Vrabel and his staff and allowed Vrabel to flourish and become an item, so much so that he gets fired and gets another job at a legacy team with the Patriots. I know it's a connection there, but he found, Will, to your point, a guy that he could build up. He already got Liam Cohen right now, who a lot of people think is a good coach. What I would say the difference between you saying I'm not having this quarterback is if Liam Cohen is as good as we think he is, to be able to get the max out of Trevor Lawrence for the first time in his career, then Jon Robinson's ability to go find talent to be able to surround Trevor Lawrence and the rest of that team with, I'll look and be patient with what Jon Robinson is doing and believe that he's capable of doing those types of things. Mm-hmm. And the separate thing for me too is this. I think when you got a guy that's really good offensively, as Liam Cohen is supposed to be, like the method in which they can really catapult themselves into being good as a team is a whole lot better than a defensive-minded coach who's somewhat conservative. For me, the way I feel about it, if a defensive-minded head coach doesn't have his quarterback or a really good quarterback, watching Mike Tomlin deal with it right now. Heck, special teams coaching and Harbaugh and Baltimore. Like, if you don't have that, then you don't have much. At least as a head coach is offensive, you can take them further. And I believe Jon Robinson can get them on the right track if they do decide to hire.
I think the big tough thing with Jon Robinson is his inconsistency. And I think with a franchise like the Jacksonville Jaguars, you keep thinking, like, even when they have their best years, they find ways to go backwards, right? Even when they get their quote-unquote generational talent in quarterback, they still haven't found ways to stay in the playoffs. Like, they made a peak with Trevor Lawrence that one year, and then they completely went backwards. And I just think it's going to be hard. I'm not saying that it's not doable, but for a guy like Jon Robinson, who has also dealt with his inconsistencies as a general manager, because just as much as I've talked about some of those free agents he brought in that were really good, he also brought in Julio Jones. He also brought in Vic Beasley. And the biggest thing, too, guys, is those last 3 draft classes, it's hard to get out of your brain that you miss on not 1, not 2, but 3 of your first round pick. That's something that he's got to learn from if he's going to get another chance. Is you can't get too high on your own supply when you take a guy that maybe was injured and you get him out of steal with Jeffrey Simmons, and then you go and draft, a Caleb Farley, who you knew had so many red flags.
I thought the issue with Jon Robinson was he did the opposite of draft, develop, retain. They didn't retain anyone.
Very true.
And they went the New England Patriots method of, we can always find someone to do your job that's going to cost us less. That's a fine method if you have elite quarterback play. I mean, honestly, like, on paper, the A.J. Brown trade was not the worst decision. It really wasn't. The Minnesota Vikings have done this when they replaced Stephon Diggs with Justin Jefferson. The Kansas City Chiefs did it when they replaced Tyreek Hill with the weapons that they did. The Buffalo Bills did it when they also traded Stephon Diggs to Houston and picked up Keon Coleman. The problem was who they got to replace A.J. Brown and putting in Traylon Burks to be the A.J. Brown. Like, again, we've talked with people. I think Sam Monson was the one that banged that drum for years of, like, honestly, the A.J. Brown trade wasn't that bad. It's just who you replaced it with. No. So that was commonly the issue. Like, letting Jack Conklin get overpaid by Cleveland in and of itself is not an issue. Who you replace him with and the O-line coach that you allow to develop his replacement in Keith Carter, that's a bigger problem. So I would be really interested to learn if Jon Robinson is the guy in Jacksonville, are you still going to try to be New England South, just further south? Or do you want to try to be a different version of an executive? Did you learn from what didn't work here? Because they did not keep any draft picks, guys.
No,
they would always go try to draft someone who's cheaper to replace them, and that's fine.
That's very true.
But it creates a really, really important need of always hitting on your draft picks, and that's just not realistic if you don't have an elite quarterback to make those guys better.
You know what's going to be amazing, you guys, is if JRob does get this job, and we know Mike Vrabel has now the New England Patriots job. 2 things that you always talk about with them is the mistakes are clear of what they did wrong here, right? Vrabel being stubborn, doing the same things over and over again. JRob, with the rolling the dice a little bit too much, and what Will just said on, trading away homegrown talent or letting them go. Do those 2 learn from their mistakes? Because right now, the start, while everybody's on Vrabel's train, he's hired pretty much the same staff that was here with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. But I look at Vrabel's situation in New England as like his crew a crew of grinders, and I think you got to be his type to actually work for him.
Sure,
also.
and some of them work,
and some of them do work. But like the way it fell apart here to me it seemed like a little bit of front office involvement, seemed like a whole lot of ego, and there was a whole bunch of power struggle too. And I think it was Vrabel's firing and Jon Robinson's too for the most part seems a little bit more non-football than anything. Like Jon Robinson's not so much because he's responsible for the draft picks, and missing on first rounders do nothing for you in this industry. So the way I view that is this. They got a plethora of high draft picks in Jacksonville. Jon Robinson, again's got a great foundation to work with. Like Anton Robinson is their Ayrton Harrison is their right tackle. They got Walker Little as their left tackle. Like they got guys around them. Hines Allen. They have a squad.
Brian Thomas Jr.
He's a baller.
I mean, they got a squad.
They have more elite young players than the Titans do.
They probably.
And their quarterback, although he's
have
not
more
lived
superstars
up
than the
to
Titans do.
what he needs to be.
Potentially, yes. Sir.
And Trevor has 2 4,000-yard
Right.
seasons, which no Tennessee Titans
Right.
quarterback
He's
in
still
Nashville
good.
has ever done.
He's not great.
Ever.
He's good.
Who's that? Who? Trevor
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 Lawrence.
Lawrence. I
there's
mean,
no
he
doubting
gets a
that
lot of
right
heat,
now.
rightfully so. He needs to be better, but he's not bad.
They have a lot. And the way I look at them is the way most people looked at Cleveland. Like if Cleveland ever found the right coach, the right setup and method of operating, they could be world champions.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville's in the same situation to me. The question is the people who are managing the continuation of players coming in, i.e. Jon Robinson, and can Liam Cohen, does he have the effect of being a really good head coach? Because it's one thing to be a coordinator, it's one thing to be a lieutenant, but when you're the 5-star general, like a lot comes with that. And they are in a spot right now to where I think the way Jon Robinson can scout, because you can say that for the most early on, he did it right.
100%.
You don't want him sending Brian Thomas Jr. somewhere else for
Right.
an unproven rookie again.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Or
Because A.J.
making-
Brown wasn't that old.
Sometimes you just got to pay guys.
Yeah,
You do.
for sure.
And truth be told, Jacksonville's got a lot of guys that they can just keep and repay because the talent is there.
Yeah.
It's a matter of can they continue to bring in good players and can that coaching staff be competent enough?
They have a few good superstar level players. They just don't have enough solid contributors.
I think it's a good roster.
The core of the roster is still not great. I think they have some talented individuals. though.
There we go. Some very talented individuals.
I hope this happens.
I know.
really
I
do.
kind of do
Why?
too.
Because I think Jon Robinson gets too much heat.
I kind of want to see it for the opposite.
I think he gets too much heat here because he built the best thing that you've had. And he never
That's
had a
true.
losing season until the last season that he was here. And honestly, if you're in his camp, you could probably make the argument, hey, if you don't fire me, reaction, to the A.J. Brown Philadelphia debacle, maybe they do still finish with a winning record. I don't know. I'd probably not, but it got really bad at the end. Don't get me wrong. But if you get pre-COVID Jon Robinson, pre-COVID Jon Robinson's a great general manager.
Well,
Post-COVID Jon Robinson was not a good general manager.
Here's the thing, though. You say that, right? 4 of his 7 years was playoffs, too. And you mentioned,
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
like, they lost in a wild card, lost in the division the next year, and then it fell apart in 2022.
And you can't make the argument of like, oh, well, it was just the AFC South. Well, if you hire him in Jacksonville, it's still just the AFC
Yeah.
South.
I want him to hire him because A, well, it gets the money off the books, and B, you
I
get
think he
to
comes
see.
off this year anyway.
Okay, well, whatever. But you
Which
get
is
to
why
see
he's in
truly if he can fail or succeed, which coming from a really crazy situation where he's been on the down low for a while. Like, I just like to see that kind of stuff play out. And it's in your division. Plus, we get to talk about it. Hello.
At the head of it, every year he was above 500, except for 22.
That's what I said, yeah. Other candidates interviewing, a lot of the candidates who interviewed here, and again, many of the bright up-and-comers in GM circles in the NFL who have talked here. Ian Cunningham, who is now interviewed here twice in the final round of interviews and not gotten the job. Bills Director of Player Personnel, Terrence Gray. 49ers Director of Scouting and Football Operations, Josh Williams. Rams Director of Scouting, James Gladstone. Bengals Personnel Executive, Trey Brown. For all we know, this could just be a Reggie McKenzie type of interview for Jacksonville, and he goes on there as a number 2 or number 3, or it's maybe even a Thomas Dimitrov, where you get someone who's done the job before just to advise you, because interviews are free consultant meetings to get people's full organizational Bible on what they would do. So he may not even be a serious candidate, but clearly everything that we've heard for a while is that Jon Robinson badly wants a GM position again, and it was this one that he really wasn't.
I would
Do you
take this
think?
job.
Do you think he takes it even if it isn't the GM job? Like, do you think he tries to get in this year
he
as
has
any
to.
type of?
Yeah.
I think he has to. He can be
If he
special
wants to
counsel
be
to the GM.
If he wants to be a GM again, absolutely.
Yeah, he got to
take
get
anything
in.
Time
from
to
him.
come out of hiding.
I think everybody knows he's on the book, so now like they can pay
Sure.
him. Yep.
615-737-1045. There is an executive in the SEC who has a very abstract solution for court storming and field storming. And yes, they're from Alabama. Ramon's already shaking his head. We'll tell you about that coming up next. RKW wrapping up the first hour of the show on this Thursday morning. And typically when people talk in the media and say, I know I'll get criticized for this, and that's okay, maybe they just shouldn't say that thing. Remote Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. That's exactly what Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne has done when talking about field and court storming in college sports. He is suggesting forfeits as a fix to the issue. Of course, the SEC leading the way, or you could say at the back of the way, depending on what your view of this is, in fining teams who storm the field. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you know this very well. They received a $500,000 fine from the SEC after storming the court following an upset of Kentucky, and that was after they beat Tennessee and stormed the court as well. Greg Byrne tells ESPN, quote, I think from a safety standpoint, keeping people off the fields and courts is a good thing for everyone involved. If we said that the home team, if they storm the field or court, they're going to lose the game right then and there, that will stop it. He adds, I'm not overly optimistic and understand it's not a popular opinion in a lot of people's view. I'll get criticized for it, and that's okay. I do believe in it. If somebody can come up with something that's a better idea that does not include that, I'm all for it.
See, Alabama's athletic director, he's too confident in society, okay? That's what that is. Like, he's too confident in believing people want to do the right thing and will do the right thing. Do you know how many, like opposing, teams would just, really come to your place to storm the court or storm the field? Like, you believe too much in society is what I would tell
Catch me in black and gold the next time Tennessee
Right?
plays at Vanderbilt, and I will be storming that court the
That's
second
a
the game is
recipe for
over.
disaster.
Greg Burns,
Everybody meet at Section A. We're going to meet at Section A, everyone.
How
Come on
many
down.
do we need? We need 50 for
Yeah,
court storming, basically?
It's a
Bro,
stupid idea.
A loss, I'm with, sometimes it can get a little dangerous, but I'll be honest with you. The reason you are Alabama is because you won big and you got to celebrate these types of wins and stuff like that, too. The reason why your admission goes up is because of big wins and people bring notoriety to your schools. This is a part of the college experience to me. This is a part of, hey, we got to go storm the field. So, Tennessee beat Alabama. Can you imagine, Will? I'm just a Vols fan real quick. Can you imagine had there been a loss after all of those families jumped on Neyland Field 2 years ago? Kayla, you
The
think
SEC office would have been
Bowers-
stormed.
I mean, I saw the game.
Kayla, you know what I'm saying? Can you imagine that, hey, you guys lose now? There would have been a riot, okay? There would have been... There would have been people sacrificing the houses and cars just to be disrespectful to the SEC for making them lose in a big time game like that. Can you imagine y'all having a storm field in Kayla in your school and you lose because I'm celebrating beating somebody? No. He's wrong. This is just OD right here. Absolutely not.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Greg Byrne, he came over from Arizona a while ago
he's an Arizona guy,
yeah,
too.
he came over from there and went to Alabama, and he's he's good at what he does. Let's not
Send him
take
back to
anything away from there.
Scottsdale.
But he likes a lot of attention. He likes to be in front of everything. He likes to have the ideas, right? That's just Greg Byrne for you. This does not surprise me, but I think it's an awful idea. Talk about a game that is so important, right? On either if it's a basketball or football schedule that could really determine if you even make the playoffs or make the tournament.
Yeah.
When it comes to
or
that
just
one
beat
game.
somebody you hadn't beaten in a while. That matters.
And you are going to have a forfeit or you're going to have a loss because somebody went on the floor that maybe didn't know the rules. We're assuming, too, that people pay attention, that students pay attention to any of the stuff we talk about. They're in their old la land. I don't know if you guys were like that in college, but up in Pullman, Washington, when I was in college, I was in la land a lot of the time in terms of just what we were doing there. So it's crazy to think, like you guys said, that you believe in society that much. But even if someone didn't even know the rules, that's a thing too that could happen. It takes one person to start storming the court for all the others to follow and forget about the rules. And that would suck for any team to have to take an L because of that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nah, I'm not with this one. I bet he thought to himself, I'm going to kill him with this one. No.
Oh, for sure.
No, you will not, sir. I get
Anyone
the
come up with a
fines.
better
Vandy
idea.
having the fines. I will say this. So y'all got
And it gets to
one
be
of
a
the
lot.
biggest endowments out here in America. Borrow some money real quick. I get it. And of course, budget is a thing, and you don't want to overspend, but that brought a lot of eyes what Vandy had going on. It brought a lot of eyes what Tennessee had going on. Like, it's just how it goes. It's a part of the fabric of college sports to me.
Do you guys think we have a field storming problem? Is there too much field storming happening in college athletics these days?
I think this year there was a lot of it.
The bar has dropped quite a bit.
And you wonder, though, if that is just teams because of how the landscape has changed
more parity
in football, right? And you have excitement when you do beat a big time program you haven't beat in a while, or whatever it might be. There's a reason for it in a fan's mind.
There's a reason for it.
Where we're looking at it like maybe not.
And there's more social media to document it.
There we go.
Because when you get a student body that watches in 2022, all of their friends got to storm the field, and you can see pictures of it on your phones and on Instagram, like. So much of being a sports fan is posting that you are doing cool things. Yeah. That is so much of it. Like when you are at a Stanley Cup final in 2017 here, you want to document so your friends that aren't Preds fans think you're cool because you got to go to the Stanley Cup final.
Right.
Like things like that. And being able to storm the field after you beat Alabama, you got friends that you went to high school with all around the SEC. They're like, oh man, that's awesome. Look at how sick this would be if we beat Alabama. So then you get more students that want to do it 2 years later when it happens again. Tennessee probably should not have stormed the field after they beat Alabama this time around, but you had a lot of students that watched it happen 2 years prior when they weren't students yet who wanted to do it.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates more of it lowers the bar and it creates more opportunity, and college sports is about having fun. Let the kids have fun.
Dr. Candace Story-Lee, athletic director at Vanderbilt, like she was begging the students not to do it.
Yeah, she was.
They had to.
There's a video of her going up saying, like, we need to buy a good team for next year.
Yeah.
Can we please not?
But they had to do it, though, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
Part of the college experience.
If they'd have beat Auburn Sunday.
Oh, they would have absolutely stormed the court. 100%.
Sure.
If you're her, are you begging?
That would have been the best win out of the three of them.
That's what I'm
Auburn's better than
saying.
Tennessee and Kentucky.
Do you think there was an idea? Look, I hope we lose this game because I'm tired of paying fines.
I do think their solution is an interesting one. I know the fine part, like fining the students is... I don't love that. But having like a cool down period where there's a 1 minute clock of like, let's get everyone off the court and then have at it.
It's like
it feels
a countdown clock.
It's a little like Clemson, like meet him at the paw. It's just part of the Clemson cult, but it's not the worst idea.
No, I'm with you on that. I'd like a big countdown clock. Make it a thing. Like when you have something like a game like that, have a countdown clock. And then when that counts down, you can go.
They just need them to storm in an orderly fashion the way they did against Florida a couple years ago.
Oh, my goodness. That was wild.
615-737-1045. Now that every head coaching hire has been made in the NFL, who will have the best first season of the new head coaches in the league? That's next.
What's going on? 7:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. Jaguars getting some interviews done to find their next general manager, and one of note for Titans fans, former Titans general manager Jon Robinson. Robinson also interviewed for the Jets general manager job earlier in the cycle, but has not held a position since being fired by the Titans in 2022. Bengals defensive captain and leading tackler Jermaine Pratt has requested a trade. Cincinnati has been devoting resources to keeping their offensive core together, and Pratt was very close with defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who was fired after last season and has since joined the Colts. Pratt ranked 10th in the NFL in tackles in the past season with 143 and was one of only 3 players with 140-plus tackles and 6 turnovers. The other 2 players who did that, Zach Bone and Zaire Franklin. And if you missed the announcement yesterday, we're the 3rd annual The Install with Greg Cosell is live, and you can go get your tickets right now on 104.5 The Zone. That's going to be May 2nd, breaking down the entire Titans draft class. You go get your tickets there today for all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs. You got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. as hour 2 begins on RKW, live in studio and 104.5 The Zone TV on 104.5 The Zone, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, where you can join in on the discussion. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling will be joined by Coach Mack coming up in 15 minutes. 615-737-1045. Kellen Moore is officially the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Glad my twin and doppelganger is moving up in the world.
I saw him coming off the private plane with his beautiful family, and I said, is that Will?
We have the same face.
I didn't.
Like the profile picture from it, I was like,
Okay.
that is a doppelganger at its best.
Good looking guy.
I'm gonna go
What can I say?
Okay, let's see if I can see what you saw.
Good looking guy.
Yeah, there's the shots of him coming off. Go look at those.
See what
Coming
I
off the
can
plane.
See what you saw real quick.
The profile one is very much so.
We have the same like
doppelganger.
face and nose and like cheekbones.
Yep. It may be the same height around there.
Is he really?
It
Let's
seems to
say.
be, yeah.
I don't know.
Because he was a former quarterback at Boise State.
He was.
So I'm assuming he's got a little height to
He
him.
was at the Senior Bowl 13 years ago,
Yeah, I saw Jim Nagy tweet about that.
which their media department is working overtime.
I was
They are
gonna say,
always just.
They're not on break.
There could be somebody could get a assistant manager position at a Dunkin' Donuts and they
Sure.
would promote it, and as they should. They
As
do
they
a great
should.
job.
Yeah. You get the height yet?
6 feet. I'm taller than Kellen Moore.
Ooh, look at that.
Take that,
There's your
Kellen.
claim to fame.
Yeah,
That's
y'all
right.
do favor
Little bit-
well.
little
Y'all got
bit
the same
taller.
head.
I told you
Oh, the hell do.
the same head.
Y'all
know.
do. Like that's where the resemblance come for me. Like, yeah, okay, all right. I actually got some real good intel on him over the last couple
Really?
of days, man. Somebody that's been close to him. It's like he's developed that. That's why I keep bringing it up a little bit too, as far as, and a lot of people question this real quick before we go into who's going to be successful. A lot of people question that with Coach Brian Callahan is, do you have the head coach aura? Do you have the head coach presence? Is what I was talking to a couple guys about. It's like as a head coach, as a leader of the organization, you have to have a feel about you. Like we watched Hard Knocks and we saw Coach Harbaugh, we saw Vrabel. I mean,
Sure.
we saw Vrabel be in those situations where you knew Gruden, you knew on the field like they have that presence, and apparently one of my sources told me is like he's developed that being around the Eagles the way he did, like his growth and
Wow.
just ability to command the room, which is huge, man. Like I've been around coaches that have been good, decent guys, but like as far as them doing the job, I ain't respect them. And not just at my position, just like, yeah, who's dude right here? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Especially a younger guy.
yeah,
right?
and especially the younger guy too. Like, and I think that's why Coach Tomlin always like commands a room and yell when he speaks, and like people were attracted to, like they gravitated towards Vrabel because you have to possess that. And apparently that was one of the question marks behind a guy like Kellen Moore. Can he, with honestly his young look, command respect and get the room to be quiet and follow his lead. And he's going to need a lot of that in New Orleans. So that was one of his growth moments from people I know that's been around him.
Good intel there.
Yeah.
So of the first-year head coaches, of course, Mike Vrabel in New England, Ben Johnson in Chicago, Pete Carroll in Vegas, Aaron Glenn with the Jets, Moore in New Orleans, Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, and Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas. Mm-hmm. All the head coach vacancies have been filled in the NFL. Who has the best first season?
I will start if you want me to.
Yeah.
I actually went back and forth with a couple guys on this list. And I'm actually surprised I settled on this one because I think the initial press conference, and I'm a little bit judgmental in some things that you come across in those situations. But I'm going to go with Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen. Duval. That was perfect, Will. And it was so weird. And it almost freaked me out to think like I judged him in that moment. There it is. Can we hear it one more time?
No.
Ew. I mean, that does make me cringe. But I will say, Kayla, do not judge on that first press conference because you can't take anything from it. What I will say, what I believe in Liam Cohen is he's in a really good spot right now for the most part. And I'd say the reason why is he's got his quarterback. And because he has been able to elevate previous quarterbacks in places he's been. We all know the Will Levis story at Kentucky, had his best season under Liam Cohen. Also, Baker Mayfield with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers obviously did a lot of good stuff with Baker as he rejuvenated his career. And now he's going to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars where Trevor Lawrence is good. He's not great. There's a lot riding on his shoulder with the new contract about how he can elevate his team. I think it starts there. And I think with Liam Cohen's past with quarterbacks, I think that's a good add. And there are plenty of weapons around him. And we've talked about this in the earlier segment of Jacksonville has guys. Like they have talent there. It's just about how they utilize and build on it and how they draft this year as well. It's a winnable division as well. I mean, you got to add it's the AFC South. And we talk about it all the time. It's a little easier to maybe find a way to win this division than others. So with that saying everything, I'm going to go with Liam Cohen having the most success this next year.
No doubt. I'll go NFC North. It's easiest for me on this one. It is Ben Johnson.
Mm-hmm. That was going to be my answer as well.
You want to ping pong this one?
Kind of the obvious one.
Yeah, it is. It's the most obvious one.
I don't know if it is, honestly, because that's a tough division to go into as a first-year head coach.
That's true. They just have so much talent.
It's the only issue is you still got Minnesota. You still Green Bay.
That's a good point.
And like who they got to go up against. But Detroit, but their floor is high. I feel like more than anything. And the respect of Ben Johnson also taking his time to find the right job for him because of what? They got a quarterback. They got a city they got crazy fanatics and got an ownership that's going to buy into him too. And the way I look at this one too is not just him, but it's also his defensive coordinator. Dennis Allen may not have been ready for their head coaching job in New Orleans, but putting him in a position where first-time head coach is one of those things where Coach Callahan, Brian Callahan, may have to find. Well, no, he's got his guy in Denard Wilson, but having support of a former head coach and Dennis Allen being able to command the other side of the football, and you be the head coach of the defense, and you've already been a head coach in your career, makes it easier for him to focus in on Caleb. That's why I'm hoping the growth for Caleb Williams moving forward comes through the lens of Ben Johnson, knowing that he can only watch the offense and still know the defense is going to flourish. That's why I think it's going to work for him.
Chicago's going to sign Trey Smith. They're going to fix the offensive line, and Caleb Williams will be the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history this season with Ben Johnson.
And you also know why, too? If he's not on their roster just yet as far as coaching staff, but Antoine Randall getting a hold of Roman Dunze. And just the young receivers in general.
He kind of came on late in the season, didn't he?
Yes.
Roma Dunze.
Yes, because it was pretty quiet early on.
But you see what he did, like Antoine Randall has done with Jameson Williams. Like he straightened him up, other than him, gyrating on the air. But like
gyrating
on the air.
I don't want to say the other one that I want to say, but either way, he was fighting demons in the air. Is what I was saying.
Yes.
But like if he can get young wide receivers and older wide receivers to buy into what Caleb Williams wants, like I know Randall L., he's a very strict guy, very faith-based guy, very worker mentality type of dude, and Roman Doomsday having him around, I think is going to do a lot for Caleb Williams too. Right?
I think the other sneaky pick is Aaron Glenn.
That's the one. That was my second one, Will.
I do.
Yeah.
With the Jets.
But they need their quarterback.
That's the only reason I wouldn't pick Aaron Glenn in this situation.
But Aaron Glenn, I think he's got the it factor of a head coach. I really do.
But it's the Jets.
I know that. And that's, you back off a little bit because of the name. But I think Aaron Glenn just going in there this week and establishing like Aaron Rodgers, you are not going to run my team. Yeah. That to me, bonus points right there for Aaron Glenn to get him out of there and say, I'm going to run my own show.
But you know what Aaron Glenn has to deal with, though?
Is so good
I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to turn around. As I think Aaron Glenn takes the Dan Campbell approach of breaking them down to build them back up. Considering that's what they did in Detroit, they had a quarterback, had to find a quarterback for Dan Campbell, and then they had to reshape themselves. Like I think removing Aaron Rodgers from New York Jets has to like reprogram the entire building. And that means like a crazy camp, which probably is going to be a lot of sore guys, a lot of injuries, because you have to inject workers' mentalities back into that locker room, because I think they hit the fanfare of, hey, Aaron Rodgers is our savior, and we just follow him, and nobody understands how to win. And I think that's what Aaron Glenn has to reestablish.
Sure.
I don't think this is a high floor for them.
We act like when Aaron Rodgers was there last year that he didn't have talent to work with. He is the cancer. He is the one that in my eyes, he really made that flower wilt there in New York, along with the mismanagement of management and the involvement. I get that as well. There was a lot of outside crap going on that made its way on the field. I think now that Garrett Wilson has Aaron Rodgers out the door as well, I think he will figure out how to be a better pro, because I know there were a lot of issues with him. He's extremely talented. And Sauce Gardner in that defense. That's not a bad defense, and I only think they're going to elevate with Aaron Glenn. So it's just quarterback-wise for me finding that guy.
My thing is, I think they have really good players, but I think they're at the wrong spots, though, too. That's the way I view what the Jets got going on.
What do you mean wrong spot?
The entirety of the offensive line isn't good. They got a couple of names on it, but not good. The defense, the Williams brothers, solid. But, how many other guys do you have? They got one up front, they got one at linebacker, and they got Sauce on the back end. And then as far as the offensive weapons go, Lazard, he's an older guy, but how much do you believe in a guy like that? Garrett Wilson, yes. Breece Hall, yes. But then you remove the quarterback. What are the Jets as a talent? Which is why I say they got to build it back up, in my opinion.
I get that.
Career high 1,104 yards for Garrett Wilson to go with 7 touchdowns last season.
And speaking of Breece Hall, he's never had 1,000 yards rushing.
Never been healthy for a full season. Yeah. 615-737-1045. Titans Radio's head coach, Coach Dave McGinnis, joins us next.
It's Ramon Foster for the Wellness Institute of Nashville, man. I'm here to tell you guys this, man. The Wellness Institute of Nashville, they have my seal of approval just in general. I went there this week, man, and ended up getting on their machine that lays you down and does the spinal decompression, man, and I feel good. They also stretched out my neck. They did a whole lot of things that's just great for the well-being of you, and they also have an even better deal right now for you, too, if you go. They have the Behind the Lines offer, which is a $37 consultation that includes a doctor's visit, x-ray if you need it, and your first treatment, too. And if you also need more in-depth treatment, like I do, okay, because you're part of the Zone family, they will give you 50% off spinal decompression treatment. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, man, just want you to get better. And that's what they specialize in. When I go there, I was sitting there filling out my paperwork as a first timer, and every person that came in after me, no more than 5 minutes, they were going to the back and get their treatments. They are good at what they do. And I know you guys are probably thinking, well, Ramon, you played football. I didn't do what you did. No. Hear me out. The wear and tear of just working out, picking up your kids, cleaning up, just whatever the case may be, you guys that have played football or ladies just played basketball or ran track, this is for you. Trust me, your spine has a lot of your nerves right there. And if there's some compression on it, go to the people that I trust, man, at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Simply put, you can call them at 615-246-5009 or go to gotpainisbad.com and be sure to tell them that Ramon sent you.
RKW on 104.5. The Zone continues your Thursday morning with the full crew in studio. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. Pleased to be joined by the head coach of Titans Radio. Brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford. Coach Dave McGinnis with the power of the telephone joining us this morning. Mac, what's up? How are you?
Hey, Will, Kayla, Ramon.
Hey, Mac.
What's up, Coach?
Good. Post Super Bowl, did a Super Bowl event where I was asked to talk about the game as it was going on. It was a pretty cool event, and now working on the draft. So here we go.
Mac, I imagine for someone that has coached defenses at any level, that was a treat. I know Kansas City didn't provide much resistance at times, but Steve Spagnuolo versus Vic Fangio, Mac, has got to be about as good as it has gotten between two defensive coordinators in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know what, Will? I really enjoyed it, and then I went back and watched it again just to be sure that what I was seeing and saying to this group that I was invited to was correct. And that was as good a defensive game plan and execution at a high level in a high pressure moment that I've ever seen. For Vic Fangio to be able to be disciplined enough to be able to stay in that match zone defense and rush for the whole game and completely destroy an offense that has really done a lot of really good things, and then to make a really good quarterback look very, very less than ordinary. It was really something to watch because the way that he deployed that thing, I mean, we can talk ball here a minute, but, you know, he calls it quads. Everybody else calls it quarters. But to start out with two deep safety and then morph into a match zone that was played so perfectly, and the only way you can do that is your front four have to be able to get there in 2.5 seconds or less. And not only get there, they have to be able to put the quarterback in a vice, and they did it. They cage rushed that guy. They destroyed the offensive line of Kansas City, completely destroyed it. And all of a sudden now the quarterback is on his left foot, and then they were matching routes so well, especially underneath. And you got a quarterback that throws interceptions. We've lived this, that turns into scores. That game got out of hand. It was 20-0 so quick. And really, if you want to be honest, looking at that ball game, it was a 40-6 ball game beat down. Right. That's what it was. And you're right. As a defensive coach for a long time, I looked at that and said, that's what you want. That was a defensive coach's dream, to be able to put that much pressure and affect a game like that with a rush like that, and then everybody else in the back end play their part.
Coach Mac at Titans Radio with us. Mac, when you say match zone or matchup zone, for people that don't know what that means, what is a match zone?
Well, there are two ways to play zone defense.
Right.
First of all, it's a spot drop, where you just spot drop to a spot on the field. Match zone, you know, to break it down to where people can understand, you have to pattern match the way it comes off. And to be able to do that, you have to recognize presets, you have to recognize motion, and you have to spend a lot of time eliminating the routes that aren't going to come out of certain sets, and then be able to zero in on down and distance and ball position on the field, what kind of routes are coming out of what formations, and then you jump the routes. But you also have to be able to jump the routes and pass it off if it happens within a short distance. In other words, if you're playing match zone and they're running Miami crossers, which is from a condensed formations, and they're going to immediate crossers where they're trying to get you picked, you have to be able to pass it off to the other side. So you're matching routes as they come off, but you're also matching them with a man pickup, but you have to be able to pass it off to the other zones if it happens within a certain amount of time. That's why it's so critical that you get pressure early from 4 down. You've got to be able to do it, because when you're covering with 7 and they've got 5 eligible guys, and you know how to match zone correctly, you're 4-over-3, 3-over-2 at any point on the field if you can learn how to pass it off of the way they're coming off from the original formation or by motion. That breaks it down for you.
Coach Max, so essentially what you're saying is the perfect representation of that was Cooper DeJean's pick 6 in the Super Bowl.
No, yeah, you know what? And the linebacker, too, Bond's play, too.
Right.
You know, where he was able to match that thing because he knew the route. He knew what was coming. Cooper DeJean was in a perfect spot, and you're 100% right, Ramon. And the other thing was you could tell that they had that quarterback who, look, we know what he is. He threw it across his body going to his throwing hand, back across, which is a cardinal sin. That's how flustered they made him. But it broke down to that defensive front demolished that offensive front for Kansas City.
Absolutely, Coach Mack. We got Coach Mack with us this morning talking ball. Coach Mack, on the same side of this, man, we're watching, Philadelphia do what Philadelphia does, man. Find guys that just drop to them. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, or just taking risk on guys. And another one of those dudes, Coach Mack, locally, man, that seem to be sliding a little bit, that's been somewhat, mock draft to them, too, has been a James Pierce, depending on who you're looking at. One thing we know is this, Coach Mack, it's a few things. One, his stock has kind of dropped a little bit. He can go mid-first round, late. Some have even said second round. Why does it seem like this is one of those type of players that Philadelphia will pick up also at the end of the first round?
Well, because he's got the requisites that they look for. Jeremiah Washburn, Jim Washburn's son, Jim Washburn is one of the best defensive line coaches I've ever worked with in my whole career. Yeah, he coaches their outside backers and their defensive ends, however they're deployed. But they're looking for guys that have got twitch, have got get off, and have got chase ability, and that's exactly what And I've got James Pierce still in that group at the top of the edge rushers because edge rushers is a strength of this draft. Edge rushers is a strength of this draft. Rhett and I have just started again for our preliminary, just putting this thing together when we're starting on just podding them up, to begin with. I've got for possible first rounds, and again, until we go to the combine, Ramon, and flesh all of this out. But just at first brush, going through this to this point, all the research that I've done is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 edge rushers that are possible first round picks, and this is a strong group. James Pierce is one of those.
No doubt about it. Coach Mack, just in your personal opinion, man, being around the game and seeing guys come into the league that are special. Like you saw Deion Sanders come into the NFL and just have the ability to play both sides of the ball. And one of those guys this year, man, is the guy that was coached by him, Travis Hunter. In your personal opinion, Coach Mack, what's easier to learn if you're trying to decide where you play him? I'll just go ahead and throw punt return. I want to see him do that too. But offense or defense, for him to learn wide receiver, or would you let him grow as a corner, Coach Mack, if you had to make a quick decision?
Well, first of all, it's going to be what type of offense are you running, and what are you going to ask him to do as a receiver? Because different offenses ask receivers to do different things. In my humble opinion, once you get him, I think you start him out. You start him out as a corner and let him flip over to the offense if he ever once he wants to do that. Here's the thing that I really think. I think that whoever drafts him will use him both ways. He won't play 120 snaps a game like he did at Colorado, but you get a guy like that. There have been other guys too. You mentioned Deion Sanders. I was there at the combine when Deion, put his medallion in his mouth and borrowed some shoes and ran 4-2-0 and then walked out the building. So you had a special type of player there. I think that the ability that this kid has, that Hunter has, that we're looking at, has got extremely tremendous spatial awareness, hand-eye coordination. He's got a really twitch to him. If I was a corner needy team, I would put him out there first and then let the offense borrow him as needed.
Gotcha.
Coach Mack joining us this morning on RKW, sharing all his knowledge. Rhett was on the show, Rhett Ryan, of course, yesterday, and he spoke about how you guys took yesterday or the day before to break down some more of the draft. What have you gotten into this week, Coach?
Well, I'm in the edge rushers. That's what I'm into.
Okay.
It's going to take some time. We haven't done quarterbacks yet, and quarterbacks will come a lot later. Quarterbacks are a whole different evaluation. They really are. And in my coaching career, anytime I was involved in vetting an upper tier quarterback, I never wanted to make a decision unless that's the thing that I miss now by not, being in those rooms all the time, especially in the interview process and being able to go to the schools and sit down with these players. But you're going to take a quarterback, you got to get to know the person. So the quarterbacks will be the last thing that we dig into really deeply. But the other ones, the edge rushers, as I say, Caleb, that's what we've really been zeroed in on, trying to sort them out before we get to the combine.
Coach, speaking of quarterbacks, there has been a lot of talk. If they don't go the drafting a quarterback route, you've got to sign a free agent. And I guess you don't have to, but you got to get another quarterback in that room along with Will Levis. With the options that are out there and the experience, is there anybody that, you would see as being a fit here?
Well, I think any of them that, would be a fit. I mean, if you talk about a veteran quarterback, most of those guys fit most places because they've got time on task in the league of doing it. That's the biggest thing, when you're drafting a quarterback or you're developing a quarterback or you're bringing in a veteran quarterback. Time on task and just being around it in the league is huge for quarterbacks. I mean, nobody wants to have patience anymore, but the fact of the matter is with that position, it really helps a lot. Now, you're going to have some anomalies like what Jaden Daniels, did up there in Washington, but Washington had a better team around him than people even understand. But there's guys that can come in and they're mature beyond their years. Again, that goes back to the point of what I'm talking about, where you've got to get to know the person.
Sure.
Sam Darnold is a guy that, everybody, it was a first-round pick that people had kind of written off, except for the football people, but all of a sudden has a resurgence, this year. Now, he has a bad end of the season 2 weeks. Will that deter people from, but you're going to have a payday. Those kind of guys going to have a payday, and you got to balance that against what you're trying to build. But Sam Darnold, to me, is the guy that's out there right now that has put himself kind of above the rest for this cycle.
Coach Mack at Titans Radio with us, presented by Two Rivers Ford. Mack, Georgia regenerated Nolan Smith in Jalen Walker, another guy that is kind of a Swiss Army knife, inside linebacker and edge rusher. Do you see him as an edge in the NFL? Where do you kind of see him sticking?
Just what you said. I mean, we've got him right now. We've got him right now in the edge rushers, but he's a guy, and the way that people are doing now, especially if you're morphing from a 4-3 to a 3-4, depending on who you're playing and what's going on, he can do both. But what he's got power, he's got twitch, and he's got size, and the fact that we know this. Georgia has had success with guys like this, playing them different places, and really they're blessed enough because they have such high recruiting classes back to back. Those kind of guys, they can use them all over the place. And when they come into the league, they'll settle into a spot. We've got him as an edge rusher right now, but he's a guy that can walk back behind the line, in a walk-away position. He can also blitz from the second level. He's a first-round guy.
Mac, Michael Williams from the same place. A lot of people have him as a top 10, top 15 prospect overall, but only 14 sacks in 3 seasons. Why did the production not match the intangibles and the talent for him, Mac?
Because there's so many of them there at Georgia.
Fair enough.
You can only make one tackle, right? And they got guys that can go hunt there. I'll tell you the guys who've got an edge rusher. I'm talking about them. I'll give you some names, and we don't have time to dig into all the whys and wheres of it. But Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, Mike Green from Marshall, Michael Williams from Georgia, James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, and Donovan Ezemaruke from Boston College.
And Coach Mack, that's why I was going to head to you next. You just mentioned his name, Mike Green, Coach Mack, out of Marshall. I've seen some as of late say, hey, he could go mid-first round just based off what our good friend Jim Nagy helped him facilitate at the Senior Bowl. Like, you saw the intangibles that he has as far as like his ability to, speed to bull rush, and he was also above weight what they needed him to. Also, do you see him as a guy that a team will say, you know what, we'll take a first-round chance on him, or will he be a second-round steal?
No. To me, he'll go in that third quadrant of the first round.
Okay.
Absolutely, because I mean, you saw him down there. We sat and talked with him. I mean, the guy. Look, anytime you've got people that can get to the quarterback, we talked about it starting out with this segment. The way that the Eagles were able to win this Super Bowl decisively, they got pressure with 4 people, and that's what you're looking for if you want to build something.
I didn't realize he was that big. I mean, I knew it, but he's like 6'4", 6'5", 250 plus right now, Coach Mang. He's a specimen no matter what school he comes out of, and he'll be knocked because he played at Marshall, but his productivity has been up there.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of just sitting with him, and when he came in, he is. I did not know that he was going to weigh 250. He weighed 250 there. I think they said he played at 248. I think he's a little tad over 6'3". But he's got enough length. The thing that he has, we sat there and watched him together, Ramon, and in talking with him, he knew that he was going to have to prove that he could also do the speed to power thing rather than just the motorcycle bend around the edge. And I think he did start off doing that. We talked about it. We talked about it sitting together there watching at the Senior Bowl. And then those offensive tackles went, okay, this guy thinks he's a power rusher, then we're going to sit on him. So as the week went on, you saw that cat and mouse game, but I still believe it's a first-round pick.
He is Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio's head coach, Thursdays at 7:20 here on the show. Great stuff, Mac. Talking ball with you. Enjoyed it. Thank you, sir.
Thank Coach.
Always my pleasure, guys. Have a great day. See you.
Mac.
Yes, sir. Coach Dave McGinnis. Man, I love hearing him just break down
right?
coverages
He was
and things
so
like
pumped
that.
about that defensive performance.
He can say things so casually that I think are like 300-level football concepts that are like basic to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I had to bring it back and like give an example of like it was Cooper DeJean that was playing, man coverage a little bit right there to peel off and pretty much tricked Patrick Mahomes. Like he thought he had a zone and Cooper DeJean peeled off. Picked him off for a pick 6.
I'd heard him describe that like match zone is like past the sticks, it becomes man coverage.
Oh, it is. That's my zone right there. But also, if nobody's behind me because of the zone coverage, I carry it with you.
And you get to fool a quarterback on the man zone declaration that Mac always talks about. Because if you're moving pre-snap with a guy in motion, the quarterback thinks it's man, and then the ball snapped and it's zone.
That's why, the pre-snap is always important. Undress the defense as much as you possibly can.
I love getting into the weeds on stuff like that.
Oh my gosh,
it's good stuff.
Also matters having good safeties too. That's a huge part of that.
Coming up, there is a trend in sports that I think is going to become much more common. A baseball team leading the way in terms of media and sports that I want to see more of. And we'll talk about it coming up next. RKW on 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up the first half of the program. NFL.com measured one area where the Titans can improve next season, and we're going to talk about that coming up in 15 minutes. We talk a lot about the Titans offense. How much faith do you have in Denard Wilson? How would you grade his first year as defensive coordinator? Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Before we get to that, though, there is a trend, I think, guys, that is starting that is going to be a thing in non-football sports. So the Cleveland Guardians tweeted this out the other day in Major League Baseball. Of course, pitchers and catchers reported around the league yesterday. The most wonderful season of the year is almost here for Major League Baseball. They tweeted, local blackouts are gone. Stream Cleveland Guardians games for just $99.99 a season at CLEGuardians.tv. I am all about this. In sports like hockey and baseball that insist on not putting their sport in front of their fans all around the country, they insist on making their sport not accessible. Teams should just start doing it themselves. And I would pay $100 if I'm out of market to watch my team with no blackout restrictions. No questions asked. And really, this honestly hurts people in market. Like my buddy that lives in Atlanta, it is easier for him to watch the Nashville Predators on ESPN Plus in Atlanta than it is for a lot of people who have YouTube TV in Nashville. I love it.
I'll just say this. It's getting crazy out there, though. I mean, the amount of things you probably subscribe to, and maybe not everybody is like me that has every channel because I watch sports all the time and I like to watch other things that are not sports. But I feel like we're paying for everything at every level, and you can't get just one thing on one place. It's just like you have a new stream you're doing for a different show and a different sporting event. It's like you have to do that for everything, and now you add in maybe watching your favorite team. And I get where you're coming from, Will. Like, you're guaranteed to see all the games for a flat price, and at least you know you're paying that flat price for the entire year, and it's not going to change. So if you are a dedicated MLB fan or NHL fan, I think this is really good for you in particular. You might need to cut off something else that you're paying for streaming wise, but at least you're guaranteed that price and guaranteed all the games for the season. And with a lot of these other platforms, you just never know what's going to happen.
I know. I honestly say take the price down a little bit more. Go to $75, because if you're a purist of baseball or any of these sports, like, make it to where I wanted to continue, as Kayla just said, to have my membership. I am a little fed up with how they do streaming these days. They rope you in, and next thing you know, you get an increase on price. Like, that's happened, I feel like, 3-4 times lately with Netflix, YouTube TV, and all of them. Is don't pull the rug from underneath me once you get me in. Like, keep me here for at least a while. I get it. For the purists that want to watch it, this is the most awesome thing you can ever have, right?
Well, this is a price reduction. Like, this is for both of you.
I think it's usually, what, 100?
Well, so this is 100, but like if you are or if you're in market and you wanted to get the Preds, but you don't have a cable provider that has the Preds, you're just out of luck.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you can't do NHL TV or ESPN Plus because you are in market, so you get blackout restrictions. So this is cheaper for you versus getting a whole other cable package and adding things to that. Yeah. And if you are out of market, it's also cheaper than getting, again, like NHL TV or MLB TV or NFL Sunday Ticket, which is not cheap at all. Like, NFL teams, I think, would charge way more than $100 to watch their full NFL season, because they can, right? But I think this is great.
This is all games, right?
Yeah, it's every game.
Yeah, it's not because Joshua was asking.
No,
except for the good ones.
There's no it's not just road games.
Restrictions.
There's no blackout restrictions at all. You pay $100 and you get every Cleveland Guardians game.
Yeah.
You guys want to know a hack for streaming? I'll let you guys in on this.
Would you tell us?
All right. So
can we say this over there?
Are you going to say the website that everyone uses?
No.
Okay.
Stay with me here, guys. So here's what you need to do. You need to find a local community college that is accepting applicants, and then you need to apply for some classes. Get your student email and then drop all those classes. Don't spend a dime at that community college.
Why is that, Bert?
Because as soon as you get that student email, you can sign up for any streaming device and get just about 50% off. I know. Spotify, you get a free Max and Hulu subscription with a student Spotify account. So what I used to do when I graduated college, I still had friends in college, and I'd throw them $20 to let me use their email to sign up for stuff. Now, you just got to go sign up for a community college class, get a college email, and then
Perfect.
sign up for one of these streaming services. So
Going
go
back
out
to
there.
school.
I don't know what y'all's community colleges around here are, but back in North Carolina, I like good old DCCC, Davidson County Community College, and you can get any streaming device you want for 50% off.
Sweet.
It's that easy.
I'm gonna be real.
Their enrollment's going up here
I'm be
at
real.
community colleges over the next week.
Like, why these kids keep dropping their daggum classes,
Right?
man?
But they're not showing up.
Do you, Sir Robert?
Wait, where does this
Aloysius
come from?
Walsh?
You called him by his government
I
name.
did, because you got
Yeah.
to take your time with him when you
He
talk
did
to
just
him
get a
about
new
all these
ID.
illegal activities he's got going on. Do you, sir, like employ people in like India and like like Nigeria? Like, is that like, do you have like a blast of emails that you send to old women to? Like, is that what you do? Are you a prince that have like 1,000 acres of land for $2,500? Like, is that what we got going on too behind the scenes?
I have some beachfront property in Iowa. I would like to
That's
tell you.
what I'm saying. Like, I'm shocked. Bert,
if you
you
ain't-
are by far the best scammer I've met
Are we
in
going to
person.
see you
at
on
this point.
Dateline?
If you ain't scamming, you ain't trying.
That's not the saying, Bert. You made that up.
I did that. That's all the more reason to trust me as a scammer.
Sir, you made that up.
Honestly,
right there.
though, like if you could offer me $100 for a full season of Atlanta Braves baseball on an app that works,
Yeah.
I would do it. I would absolutely do it because they are, again, a team that is in market with blackout restrictions, and FanDuel Sports Network has their games. I use YouTube TV. They don't have that. So then I have a family cable password that I use of a company that will remain nameless that I use on the Bally Sports app. Now, I guess the FanDuel Sports app, that thing is a crime against humanity.
Yep.
Whoever designs the FanDuel Sports Network app, you are doing a disservice to a lot of good broadcasters who broadcast your games. That thing was put together by 10-year-olds.
I know. I
It
just
is
saw it the other day.
terrible. I would literally just pay to not have to use that app on Apple TV because it is trash. It is absolute trash. Again, not talking about the broadcasters. A lot of them do a great job. Anyway, I love it. I think it's going to become more of a thing. I think you will see more teams just do their own in-house broadcasts and
That's the talk.
direct to the team, pay for
Yeah.
it.
You got folks in the chat right now talking about this man is giving away important life hacks right now. There's somebody just said they just signed up for Nashville State. Okay. There's
Yes.
a few folks in here that are just, I'm signed up for Vol State right now. Look what you have
Perfect.
done.
What should my major be at Tennessee College of Applied Technology?
Oh, my God.
Apparently, so it's
Anthropology. We talked about that earlier this week. Ramon said that's only for athletes, so you should be the change Ramon wants to see in the world.
apparently it's a great school to attend. Faculty and staff care about you at every step.
Oh my gosh.
Just
then
what you need,
Can't wait to
sounds
sign
great.
up.
right?
One of these days, I want a community college to just be honest. Like, you know what? We weren't your first
We're not
choice,
that good.
but we're going to help you get a job,
Right.
dang it.
Exactly.
You didn't want to come here, but we are here for you.
I know you may
We're
be
cheap.
broke,
Yeah.
but we'll help you get to school.
Yeah.
We will
And
give
again,
you.
there's nothing wrong with going to JUCO or JUCO.
I have plenty of buddies that went to two.
Honestly, for
Nothing
baseball,
wrong with
that's
it at
the
all.
place to go. Go to JUCO.
And
then
if you
can
knock
go to
out your
big
entry
school.
level college courses there, it's so much cheaper. And then go
Yeah.
to
It is.
a 4-year school.
It's honestly
Yep.
kind of a life hack, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Especially
So,
nowadays, you're overpaying for some of these colleges.
And you get all the student discounts.
Someone come
Right.
get this man. No, man. We're not.
Well, they might
hurt.
after that.
I just love I do love how every university, like I'm not just talking about community colleges. I love how every university is just the way they try to convince you that everyone there is happy and everyone is smiling all the time and
jobs.
everyone is playing ultimate frisbee on the quad at every college ever. This is not just a community college thing. It's just funny to me. I want universities to be honest. Yes, some of you will like it. Some of you will transfer because you drink too much. 615-737-1045. Is that you waving your hand?
Well, I mean, that's all you do in Pullman. So I didn't transfer, but that's all you do is
There you
party.
go.
Yeah.
Coming up, let's talk about the Titans defense a little bit. NFL.com measured how every team in the NFL tackled this year. How would you grade Denard Wilson's first year as defensive coordinator? That's next.
What's going on? 8:02. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Jacksonville Jaguars getting some interviews in to find their next general manager. One of note for the Titans fans, former Titans general manager Jon Robinson. Robinson also interviewed for the Jets general manager job earlier in the cycle, but has not held a position since being fired by the Titans in 2022. To the Bengals, where their defensive captain and leading tackler Jermaine Pratt has requested a trade. Cincinnati has been devoting resources to keeping their offensive core together, and Pratt was close to defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who was fired after last season and has since joined the Colts. Pratt ranked 10th in the NFL in tackles this past season with 143 and was one of only 3 players to have 140-plus tackles and 6 turnover plays alongside Zach Bond and Zaire Franklin. And if you missed the announcement yesterday, the 3rd annual install with Greg Cosell and Buck Rising. Tickets are on sale now, May 2nd at the Analog Hotel. You can go to 104.5 The Zone to grab those for all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs. You got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW, second half of the show, and hour number 3 here already on your Thursday morning. Friday Junior, how we know it on this radio program. 615-737-1045. Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling. Coming up in 15 minutes, build your ideal quarterback. What do you care the most about when you are learning about NFL draft QBs? Do you want arm strength? Do you want IQ? Do you want big game experience? Do you just want experience, period? We'll dive into that coming up here in 15 minutes. We stream the show live on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. The F&M Bank chat open for your comments and quandaries here this morning. Thursday also just known to me as Severance Day now. Mm-hmm. I literally love that show so much, and last week's was so crazy that I just view what day of the week it is as how long do I have to wait until Severance drops again. Oh, my gosh. Anyway.
See, I'm like that with traders. I just need Alan Cummings. Traders. every Thursday, Cheyenne gets off work, and she has this whole rigmarole she's got to do when she gets off work. She got to take her clothes off, get comfy.
Jeez.
You know, well, she's in professional clothes. Like, I get to be comfy all day. She's got to wear, like, pantsuits and all that.
Oh, okay.
As soon as she gets home, I'm like, girl. Get on the couch. We watching Traders. They ain't no comfy. They ain't no nothing.
Get on the couch naked.
No, that's me.
All right.
That's me.
Wait a minute.
Never sit on Bert's couch.
Hey, soon as I get home, it's like an alien ray shot me. Just my clothes hit the floor.
Right?
That's all it is. I hate, honestly.
Well, we know your story.
I got beef with Adam and Eve because if we could have just been hoofing around here naked and not having to put clothes on.
That's real.
You could go to Europe.
That costs a lot of money. I just
That's
want to be
true.
in the buff for free.
Yeah, I get you.
But that's. I feel like I derailed us a little bit.
I'm never
No,
sitting
I
on
mean,
your couch.
It's the honest truth.
Make sure you got like pull out chairs for me, okay? Like give me a picnic chair. I'm not sitting.
I'm
on
gonna have to
couch.
cover all my clothes in that plastic your grandparents got. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my
what a
grandma had
plastic
that.
hat.
You know that's why they say our grandparents put that plastic on those furniture.
You're
'cause
joking.
They was out here. Never mind.
In the buff.
Dude, that's wild. Because my granny had.
I was gonna let you walk into it.
I was about the line step right there for a second. Nope.
Came
I don't
close.
think about
Anyway.
that. But I just know bring the plastic out at Bert's house.
Well,
And
Bert-
not like American Psycho either.
Bert is tackling that issue, and NFL.com ranked how every team in the NFL tackled this season.
Ooh, nice transition.
Not my best.
That was,
I thought it
NFL.com
was good.
ranked how every team tackled. Chiefs were number 1. Best tackling team in the NFL. At least they can raise that banner this year. Ravens were 2. Broncos 3. Steelers 4. Lions 5. They gave the Titans a C+ tackling grade. Number 18 in the NFL. Middle of the road. A little bit past middle of the road. Writing they had a brutal start to the season with a bottom 10 tackling efficiency before their Week 5 bye. The defensive line helped shore things up as Harold Landry led all edge rushers in efficiency. Harold Landry did not miss many tackles. last season when he was in position to make them. And T'Vondre Sweat topped the defensive tackle ranks among players with 50-plus chances. Cornerback Roger McCreary struggled, missing a team-high 18 tackles while converting only 50. And Tennessee was a bit shaky in allowing the league's 11th most rushing yards after contact. I think that's interesting.
Can I? Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to wait till you finish, but I have something to say about Roger.
Okay. How would you grade Denard Wilson's first year as defensive coordinator?
His grade, incomplete, so I'll give him a C. C plus, probably, depending on what he had to use. And if you want me to give reasons as to why, is I think a few players playing out of position, not really having a fully, stock side of the ball as far as safety goes. Tried to make a few things work that did not work out for you. You just had no real good plus one when it came to having Kenneth Murray play his spot. I feel like he was a little bit, a tad bit, a lot of this season out of positions. He's not a coverage guy. He's a see ball, get ball type of player, and having him drop in coverage. And then not trying to figure out what you're going to do with Gibbons, a lot of youth. Then, of course, your safeties, I give him a C just on the basis of he didn't have the weapons that you need, man. Any good coach will tell you when it comes down to how good they are, you need the Jimmys and Joes, and I don't think he had a good array of those. Well, a good talent pool of guys that can make the plays for the defense that he wanted to run.
And adding to that, before I get a grade, you were talking about Roger McCreary maybe having one of his worst years, and you were saying players maybe playing out of position, also players that weren't drafted by this coaching staff and necessarily maybe didn't fit right into this type of scheme for defense. And I will say this right now. I won't say how I found this out, but Roger McCreary is one of those guys, I believe, that maybe doesn't quite fit what this Denard Wilson defense is.
You don't think so?
Or feel like he did.
I'll say something.
I'm just going to say.
I feel like you need to say something.
I pretty much just did that conversation I had at the end of the year.
The scheme.
And I know that Roger McCreary was a little beat up this year too. He missed probably the most games he's missed in his career because he is a really tough kid who's going to play through anything. But I will say, I don't know if he felt as comfortable in this specific defense, if he felt like he was at least utilized the way that he wanted to be utilized.
Interesting.
So I'll leave it at that. With that, you guys can take it where you want to. With that, I'm going to say C+, because you're right. I think it was a bummer that not all the defensive key pieces were healthy this year. And let's add L'Jarius Sneed into that. That is exactly what Denard Wilson looks for in an attacking style of defense. He was pretty much not there. Chidobe Awuzie, really not there. You had so many injuries to the linebacker position where they were kind of patching that up throughout the season. And what's crazy, guys, is you look at the end of the year stats for the defense, they rank second in overall yards given up, right? So pretty good. They didn't give up a lot of yards overall. Passing yards ranked second as well, just giving up 177.3, but that's misleading almost. Because I think some of these games, you gave teams a lot of good field position. So they were working with a shorter field. Therefore, you're not going to give up as many of these bigger stats. I just remember that one game in particular with the special teams blunder, where that, I think, helped their defensive stats. I think a C+ is fair because I do feel like the injuries played into it, but they just, in the long run, they didn't do enough.
No, it wasn't enough.
I'd give him a B.
You give him a B.
I think y'all aren't giving him enough credit.
I guess we're being tough. I thought I was being kind of nice.
If they'd kept Ernest Jones all season and they had the same same performance and same numbers, then I'd probably say C or C+. But they had injuries to the two veteran corners that were brought in to play this scheme. They didn't get a pass rush. They had one superstar player on the whole defense. They got good stuff from Amani Hooker, but they traded away a guy that was the quarterback of the defense in Ernest Jones. And Kenneth Murray did not live up to his $9 million a year. So I thought he was fine. I think he needs to prove, though, still, if you want to be considered in the future head coach tier, you still have to get better than a B. And I do think we probably crowned him as a future head coach too quickly last season before things really we had enough time to really know who he was. But I still have faith in Denard Wilson.
I do too.
One thing on Roger McCreary I think is interesting and something that has not been discussed a lot. Part of the motivation of moving Elijah Molden last season was going into the last year of his rookie contract. He had a performance escalator that raised his base salary $2 million. So that was something that I think has been discussed a little bit, but Elijah Molden's cap hit last year, again, not a lot of money, but you're talking about a couple $1 million, went from $1.3 million to $3.1 million. That was a part of the motivation of them moving on from Molden and bringing in Jamal Adams instead, was he was about to make more money and they didn't feel like he was worth what that proven performance escalator, what it's known as, was going to give him. McCreary is in the same boat. So Roger McCreary entering next season, his base salary and cap hit is going to go up almost double. So last season, he cost the Titans $2.4 million against the cap. Next season, Roger McCreary costs $4.3 million against the cap. Again, they have money. They are not tight for cash. Simply giving you all the facts so you know, if they flipped Roger McCreary like they did Elijah Molden for a 5th or 6th round pick this offseason, I wouldn't be shocked to see something like that happen.
100%.
Yep. And I love him as a player. I really do. Man, you
Elijah
want that.
or Roger?
Roger
okay.
McCreary. And I liked Elijah too, but he couldn't stay healthy. Roger, for the most part, has been very durable, but you're right, Will. You see that go up, and I know that's not a ton of money, but if they feel like there is something better fit-wise, maybe they do that.
Considering Elijah's injuries and like the amount of time that he was going to be playing, to that point of like, why would you get rid of him? Like, it wasn't, to your point, great business.
Right.
Yeah.
And he kind of didn't, from what I have heard, guys, he also kind of didn't want to be here.
Didn't.
And more of that came after feel like Jamal Adams was here and he felt like his, snaps were going to go down. But
McCreary this past season only made 7 starts for the Titans.
Yeah.
And that is not
15 games played, 7 starts.
Yep. 100%. So it's business going to always come to the forefront eventually when it comes down to it. You brought that up about Roger. I didn't know that about McCreary, Will. Like, he's going up to $4 million. Like, that's starter money right there.
Sure is. Coming up, build your ideal quarterback. What are the things that you value as the Titans pursue a QB? Is it arm strength? Is it high football IQ? Is it amount of games played and starting experience? We'll dive into what we value in the NFL draft process coming up next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. To all my facility managers out there, let me ask you something. How are your plumbing fixtures doing? Do you have a clog in a sink or two? Hey, maybe you just got an annoying leak. There's that one place that's got the inconsistent hot water when you need it the most, when you're open, when you're busiest. Well, no matter your plumbing problem, the team at Lee Company is here to help. For over 80 years, their expert technicians have been here to make your life easier and keep your place of business running efficiently. Available 24/7, 365. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or contact them online at leecompany.com. The folks at Lee Company, they are a facility manager's best friend, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, your electrical systems. They are always prepared to make sure that things are running efficiently in the way that they're supposed to. And the best part, they are open 24/7, 365, because all these issues tend to pop up at the worst possible time. 615-567-1000 or contact them online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW on 104.5 The Zone continues, and it lands wherever you download podcasts. 10 o'clock every single morning, every hour of the show, every interview, every conversation. If you're hopping into the cubicle and you can't pop on Zone TV, first of all, we forgive you. And secondly, you should subscribe to the Ramon, Kayla, and Will podcast. Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel, subscribe while you're there as well. It helps us out, and it is free to you. It takes about 5 seconds to click that button. So if you were building your ideal quarterback prospect, what do you care about the most? Ramon made this point yesterday, and you asked the question at the end of our conversation, scouting Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And you asked, what do you guys care about? What would you rather have? Do you rather have the big arm, or do you want the high football IQ? And it seems like the Titans are going to have to make a choice if they draft one of the top two quarterbacks on the type of QB they value more throughout this process. So I will ask the question to you guys. What do you value the most? If you are Mike Borgonzi, what do you want to see out of your future quarterback if you're getting one in the draft this year?
For me, I got, 5 categories here. I'll just read them off and we can go back to them if you need me to. But first, tough. And then probably it's like, well, we're talking about quarterbacks, so I can explain that to you later. But tough, accuracy, play processing, or play processor is the way I look at it. Athleticism, and then the arm. It's the way I view my top 5. Like, that's my ranking 1 through 5. Tough, accuracy, play processor, athleticism, and then the arm. That's the way I would rank if I was the Titans going into this situation with these two guys, and both of them have pluses and minuses, is the way I view it.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say IQ. I think that can be looked in a lot of different ways, because I don't think you could necessarily compare those two, one or the other, having better IQ than one or the other. Like, I feel like
Really?
Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders have good at football IQ. I think they're just different in the way they execute it.
Well,
right?
Shedeur Sanders has a lot less turnovers than Cam Ward.
Sure. And
in his career.
that's one thing that I don't know necessarily can be directly IQ, because I think that can be mixed with just bad decision making, maybe something you've gotten used to over time and hasn't been fixed. And in some ways, it's like not the football smarts. It's just almost like you're doing something that you've done over and over again that no one's actually tried to fix.
To me,
and
that
I
is
think,
football smarts.
But I don't think he's a dumb football player. I think when you think IQ, I automatically think that he's not a smart football player. And I don't think that's the case at all about Cam Ward.
Well, does Will Levis have a high football IQ?
Yeah, I think he goes in the room and studies and, does the right things. But you're right. Sometimes executing it can be a downfall. But Cam Ward has such a high ceiling that when he has made those mistakes in terms of fumbling the ball, more than ever, it's the fumbling that I think has gotten him in his career. I don't think the interceptions are quite as an issue as the fumbling the football. Can that be fixed is the bigger question. So I want a guy who has had the experience in college, who has played a lot of football, which both guys have done, both Ward and Sanders have done. I want, though, maybe the difference for me is the athleticism. In this day and age, when you're looking at a quarterback, and that is something Mike Borgonzi did point out, I want a quarterback that's maybe a little more athletic. And I know Cam's not like the most athletic, but I think he is slightly more athletic than a Shedeur Sanders is. But you're right. He does need to clean up the turnovers. The big question is, can he and will he do that?
I'm not calling Cam Ward dumb.
I know.
Like, I'm not saying he doesn't have a good football IQ.
I think of that.
I think Shedeur Sanders has a better high football IQ. Because not turning the ball over is part of knowing how to play the game.
Yeah, it's part of it. Right. I think they're both smart players, though.
So mine, I have that basically. Play processor is my third on my list. So when I think about that, I wrote down in my notes, like, for me, it's seeing something pre-snap and we got him instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how quick can either one of those guys, despite the athleticism, arm talent, all those things you throw into them, how many of those can find their offense in a bad situation? It's like, nope, fellas, I got us. Case in point, we go back to the Cam Newton versus the Titans situation where Wesley Woodyard called out Cam. And he was just like, okay, well, watch this. Like, I want a quarterback that when the defense has him, the quarterback's like, nope, I got you. Now watch me get you. Like that part of the game to me is I feel like is what you found in a Jaden Daniels, right? What you saw in C.J. Stroud from time. What Patrick Mahomes possesses is what you want in the early Aaron Rodgers days where you couldn't figure out what he was going to do. Like that's what you want out of your quarterback, in my opinion. So that's why for me, like the play processor has to be a huge part of what you're asking these guys to do. And that goes way further than anything you ask them. The Tom Brady's of the world. Like, nothing is going to surprise them now. That also comes with a lot of experience and also having success, too. But being a play processor, man, takes you so much further on game day when sometimes you have to outplay coaching because coaches sometimes get caught in the pickle and there is no answers from them. And that's where having that at the top of your has to be a part of. Now, in my personal opinion, that's something that I've heard a lot of people talk about. This ain't even my opinion. I've heard people talk about like that's what Deion has tried to equip Shador with. Surrounding him around all these NFL guys, putting him in a position where he's one-on-one with Tom Brady. Like, now, doesn't mean that he's going to ingest and deliver all that back out, but having that knowledge of what to do and how to study and how to break down teams might, in my opinion, be advantage Shador to whereas the athleticism and arm strength is advantage Cam.
I'll go back to, the IQ thing, too, because it is an interesting thing to say, like, are you a smart quarterback? There's different ways of judging that because just how Cam Ward has turned the ball over, that is definitely a weakness of his. Shador Sanders has also been known for not knowing when to take a sack or not, standing too long in the pocket. And I think that's an IQ thing, too, that could be like, hey, you've got to fix this if you're going to be successful. I'm really even on both these guys. When it comes down to it, of course, I like Cam Ward a little bit more, and I just know more about him, right? I've seen him play more. Yeah. But I do feel like if they are having to be able to be developed just a little bit at the next level where maybe they don't play right away, I do think both these guys can be successful. You know what sucks, though, about that is we're going to need answers and answers fast. And that's what it is. Because what sucks. Even if you let them sit, we need to be hearing rumblings coming out of practice. Boy, did you see Cam? Boy, did you see Shador? It's the same thing you have when you got one in the chamber with like Patrick Mahomes. Like you knew he was going to be that type of guy, or just other guys that we've heard about in college. Like, boy, wait till he starts starting. Like that does have to happen because in this league, as it pertains to like young quarterbacks, like you have to spark early and you got to show the team at least that you are the man moving forward, and that's where it becomes problematic for bad teams. Yeah. Bad teams need a quick answer. And you're number one overall. It's hard to sit someone when you're picking that person number one. And that's why I put at the top of my list, and this is specifically for the Titans in this situation, you got to have somebody that's tough. And here's the reason why that has to come first. One, there's going to be a lot of blame, and you can't be the one that's pointing the finger at everybody else. You have to be able to handle the media, and that right there falls on you. When you win, everybody else is supposed to get all the credit. When you lose, can you say, that's on me? Sure. You know what I'm saying? Because that's one of the things I feel like Will Levis more than anything failed at this year. Like, he didn't take ownership of, I suck right now. He did dodge a lot of that in the beginning. I think he learned from it, but you're right, Ramon. I felt like that, too. Yeah. There was a lot of, like, blame on everybody and not maybe taking the blame in the beginning. And he somewhat took the blame. Well, I got to rewire myself. And it's just like sometimes, like, in those moments, say little. Don't even give that answer and just, hey, we'll be better. I'll be better. That's on me. Like, And maybe I'm missing a lot of his presses and, comments that he said after that. But I feel like coming here, the demand of a quarterback to be tough has to be number one on the list. I almost think they're both tough, too, in their own ways. That's what's so hard about this is, like, picking one or the other. They both have their weaknesses, absolutely. But they also have a lot of things that makes you believe that they can succeed at the next level. And part of that, again, Will, I'll go back to one of the biggest things for me is just playing a lot of football, right? I mean, just that I think helps so much. Both of them being in different offenses, both of them having to learn new offenses and being able to do that so well and adapt, because we know in the NFL that happens too.
Where does arm strength and arm talent rank on things that are important to you for draft picks? Arm is last for me. Arm is way. So you're in the Shador Sanders camp?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It sounds like it.
No, that's fine.
Arm is last for me because I've seen guys have monster arms and can run 4.3s and 4.4s at quarterback. But what is the job of the quarterback?
Get the ball from point A to point B to the guy wearing your color of the uniform.
For sure.
There are moments when you need him to be able to, hey, we got to use the rifle right now. The accuracy of delivering that goes way further.
Like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are the perfect example of physical specimens who cannot understand. I think Will Levis has a very low football IQ. Very low. Consistently, he thought the defense was giving him something pre-snap, and then something else would happen, and he would throw it straight to a defender.
So maybe he has good
when
habits,
the play,
not IQ.
I don't think there's much good about Will Levis.
No, I was talking about the classroom and like how he I don't think he was not working hard, right?
Well, it's the NFL. Everyone's working hard, unless you're Jamarcus Russell. Like there are the rare exceptions, but these guys are pros. They're all studying film. They're all working with trainers.
But
They've
retaining
all got
it.
Sure. Well, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Like you're either smart on the field when the bullets start firing or not. Like you can watch all the film you want, but if you still think a defense is in a cover 2 and it's cover 3, you're going to throw it the wrong spot. Yeah. And if you're just blind, hey, I'm throwing it right here, and you predetermine like he did so many times.
I get what you're saying.
Like when Will Levis's first read was open, he was a really good quarterback. That's why they were good in the first half. Like the throw he made in L.A. against the Chargers, what was it, over the middle of the field from about the 27-yard line first quarter, primary read. Wide open, touchdown. Right, and that one even may have been a secondary read. But still, like, commonly, when you took away the number one thing Will Levis wanted to do, he threw it straight to you every single time.
He did.
And that's a great point, Will, because you can be a good student of the game and you can sit there and try to bring in all the knowledge you want. But if you're not retaining and actually doing that on the field, you're never going to go anywhere. And I think Brian Callahan actually mentioned somewhere in one of these post-season interviews something about, like, it's one thing to learn it, but you've got to actually go on the field and do it. Yeah. And the one thing that I'll say about Cam, only because I had a resource, about this, was one of his offensive coaches said, him being able to learn and retain information is something that is a real positive for him. Right. So that, again, goes back to you learn all these different offenses, but you're able to actually retain it and do something with it, which is not what Will Levis necessarily did. And we can all say, oh, he's had all these different offensive coordinators. I don't know if that's really a great excuse for him.
Yeah. But again, to that same point, so I'll just go like real quick again. Athleticism, you got to have some type of mobility. I also think like the way I've kind of broken this down, it almost sounds a little bit like Jackson Dart in a sense. Like not necessarily you pick him, but like you have the mindset that he's tough. You know that he can throw the ball when you need it to, albeit he's been more open wide receivers and stuff like that. But I'm not buying into arm strength and arm talent because to play in this league, you got some of it anyway. It's a matter of can you process the play well enough? Yep. Can you put the ball in a spot? And it ain't even just like little stuff like watching Jalen Murrow down at the Senior Bowl. Oh. He's got the arm. He's got the athleticism. But does he have the touch to get the ball there?
So that's my number one characteristic. Can you put the ball in a place where an NFL defensive back can't get it? Yeah. Consistently. Accuracy in big moments, if I was putting it in a snackable phrase, is the number one thing that I need. Because you get guys like Will Howard who can win you games in big moments. But how many of those passes would be defended by NFL defensive backs or intercepted?
Great point.
The accuracy of Will Howard is not consistent enough for me to say that's an NFL quarterback. On the flip side, you have guys like Jackson Dart, who, again, in big moments are winning games, but he's doing so in a Lane Kiffin offense that is designed to get guys 5 to 10 yards of green grass beyond where their defensive back is. Jackson Dart is a great potential quarterback. He's consistently making throws that NFL defensive backs would be all over because guys are just wide open in their system. So it's the mix of those two things. It's, are you leading your team to wins when the lights are brightest? In doing so with touch and accuracy that translates to the National Football League. Arm strength and arm talent is way down the list for me. It is. And I think this is where people have started to chase the Mahomes for so long, ever since he popped up and became the dude. And Mahomes and Josh Allen is what everyone wants. But there are plenty of quarterbacks out there that, I mean, don't have the arm strength that could be developed over time to just be a point A to point B Brock Purdy type. The problem with all of that is that you also have to have a good system around guys like that to be successful. And that's why I don't think the Titans are ready to draft a quarterback, because they don't have the system to allow these guys to have time to throw and good players to throw to get it point A to point B.
And then the other parts of you, to the points you're making is this too. When we're talking about big arm, we're talking about big explosive plays. Heck, a big explosive play may be a 12-yard in and go for 60.
Right.
That's explosive, right?
Which, like, Travis Hunter takes a 5-yard slant and runs for 50 yards.
And like, we were looking at the Super Bowl finally when Jalen Hurts nailed one down the end, or Patrick Mahomes, like 40, 50, 60 yards down the field. How many times can you get that play off and actually make that play too? So the majority of the plays that you're running, 20 yards and in, if we're being honest, right? So how good or how much of an emphasis should be put on arm strength when we're playing within the first 20 yards anyhow? You take 2-3 shots a game. So when we're talking about can you actually put it on the spot and the anticipation and accuracy of it, that to me need to be the biggest like attribute that these quarterbacks need to bring into this building, because that's what they've been lacking.
Well, clearly, because this last year we knew exactly what Will Levis's strength was, his arm strength. He has a cannon. But how much did we really see that this season, especially to begin the year? Because guess what? He had to work on all these other things.
Well, the crossing routes he couldn't hit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when he finally, maybe in a couple games, they let it loose a little in terms of him using his arm, it's almost like he couldn't even do the basic things the right way. And at that point, your arm means nothing in those situations to help win games.
Honestly, Will Levis has made me care less about arm talent.
I mean, it's kind of fair, though. I mean, are we wrong?
I was just reminded by somebody. Coach Callahan said this in the preseason. I mean, in his postseason interviews, like there is a standard baseline requirement.
Yeah.
It's like, but you can make up for it with anticipation and also just accuracy of the plays.
Great point. Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest issue. There was no consistent like games of like, oh, he's cooking. It was like,
Absolutely.
oh, big play or big play action. Like that gets old and it's very predictable too. The best thing that can happen for you more times than not is for you to get a DPI down the field.
I thought it was interesting. Greg Cosell brought it up on Buck's show earlier this week when they announced the Install Live coming up first week in May.
Nice.
The Hutton Hotel analog over there. Great spot. Tom Brady always talks about sacks are always a quarterback's fault. Like sacks are not always, and there are rare scenarios where a guy just gets beat, but I knew you would love that. Sacks are always a quarterback's fault. And I think that's
So
the other
funny.
characteristic that is a challenge for both of these guys, and really mainly for Shedeur Sanders, that I think we should have seen in Will Levis sooner. Will Levis took a lot of sacks at Kentucky, and we justified it by saying, oh, he never had a good team around him. At what point, though, do you just get beaten up so much that you just become too accustomed to taking those sacks, you don't know how to get away from them? Like similarly, not physically get away from them. I mean like setting up protections, moving guys in to block, knowing that you've got 6 coming and you only have 5 blockers. You need to add a 6th or have a hot throw that gets the ball out quickly. That is the major concern for Shedeur Sanders is I'm not going to do that again like I did with Will Levis and just say, oh, he took a lot of sacks, but he never had a good line. Yeah, he had a bad line, but also he probably could have done a better job protecting himself and not running out of the back of the pocket the way Malik Willis did when he failed.
So what's easier to fix, that or Cam Ward's weakness in not taking care of the football, primarily fumbling, right? What's easier to fix?
Which one do you think is easier, though?
I have no idea, Mo. You're the pro. You're the pro. I actually like your thought on that.
I don't play. What's easier is to get rid of the football out of your hand. In my personal opinion.
You think that the fumbling is something?
I think it depends on the guy, right?
Because there has to be instinct inside the pocket, too. Like, knowing that, hey, Shedeur's felt like he was extending the play a whole lot. You look at it, say, like, guys getting beat, all right, the young freshman, Jordan Seaton, getting beat, that's one thing. Also been in a position to where, look, I got an outlet here, throw it at the wide receiver's feet. That's instinct right there. Being able or holding what I said about earlier when I think we spoke about Cam Ward a week or two ago was he holds the ball low and he throws it low too coming from his hip.
Right. That
right there is a feel of presence. Like you got to feel that the ball needs to be gone or change your technique to hold the ball up higher to release point. Like that's something that he can work on in training, but it's just I always go back to the T-Boy effect. most times, unless you fully train it out of yourself, you go back to your old
Sure.
ways as a player.
I get that.
Unless you see
It depends
success.
on the
Yeah.
player, I think. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all one. Turnover issues or taking sack issues are easier to fix. Like, for some guys, footwork is easy to fix, but they don't have a feel for the pocket. For other guys, they can get a better feel for the pocket, but when the bullets start flying, their mechanics go out the window. Like, it depends on the person, and that's why all these GMs and executives get to meet with them and know more about the person and have conversations that we don't get to have.
And Teron Davenport also
615
said much easier to fix holding on to the ball.
Okay.
So.
I would have thought throwing it away. Either way.
He's a lot smarter than me about football, so I would trust his opinion over mine. I say that I'm totally serious when I say that, not being sarcastic. 615-737-1045. Your reaction, what do you value in a quarterback? Brandon and Steve, lead us off on the phones when we come back.
It's Ramon Foster, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all, they have been here and in business since 1990, man. Even cooler, they are family-owned and operated. Jimmy Hiller, man, was named among the most admired CEOs because of how he truly cares for his team and clients. Hiller take care of the customer on every single job, every single time, man, and they stand by their work. So much so that they live by happy you'll be or the service is free. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right every single time. They also send a professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians to come to your home, and they leave it cleaner and better than they found it, especially if you need something fixed. The best thing I like about Hiller is this, man, the true transparency pricing. They're not trying to surprise me whenever I get my bill. No, every part of the job is told to you up front, so you feel comfortable with what you're paying for and why. They will itemize everything for you as it pertains to the service they provide to you. If you need to book with Hiller, whether it be plumbing, heating, cooling, or electrical, man, go to happyhiller.com.
RKW on 104.5 The Zone wraps up hour 3. There is something Coach Mack said earlier this morning I thought was very interesting about Travis Hunter that we can reset for you coming up in 15 minutes in case you were sleeping in or you were getting off work. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of overnight people listening to the show.
For sure.
We do.
Yeah, drivers that are even driving through the night.
That's right. Many of you wanting to comment on the Titans quarterback decision. We asked before the break, what do you value the most in the quarterback process? Arm, intangibles, pocket presence, winning? Brandon in Lebanon up first on the phones on this topic. What's up, Brandon?
What's up, guys? How are y'all this morning?
Great.
Good morning.
Hey, so my thing is with Shadir, I think it's going to be hard for him to take direction because he's been under the leadership of Deion for so long that, you know, to go into a new fold with new direction and new coaching schemes to be taught for him, I think it's going to be some type of hurdle for him to overcome. But, I mean, as far as, like, the intangibles, I see him better as a pocket present quarterback than Cam. Cam, he's very he starts to fumble around and starts to think that, like, he starts to break down basically like Will Levis does. But that's just kind of my take on Shadir with, you know, is he going to be able to take direction or will he be able to, you know, get into it pretty easy?
Thank you,
hang up, listen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. I don't agree with that. I don't.
I think it's easy sometimes with Shedeur Sanders that we assume just because he's really been with his dad most of his college career that we just think that he's not going to be able to do it with anybody else because Prime is such a polarizing figure. But I think he's a mature enough young man to know that to be successful at the next level, which is what he wants to do, he's going to have to do that with a coach he doesn't know, right? That hasn't been around. And I think sometimes we just assume because Prime is just that guy that gets the headlines that's how Shedeur Sanders is. I don't necessarily think that's the case.
That ain't the case. I see somebody said in the chat, too. He's totally coachable. I don't think him being out on his own is going to be a problem.
No.
I mean, and here's the other thing, too. Heck, Deion plays on Saturdays. He can catch a PJ from Colorado to Nashville on Sundays. Like, you're going to see him if he's here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, and
I don't either.
It'd be
He
one
ain't
thing
coaching.
if it would be one thing if Deion Sanders was his offensive coordinator. Because then you could make the argument of like, oh, he's had the same OC, he's like, it's a perfect marriage of coach to player. Like, he had Pat Shurmur.
Yeah.
He had, Pat Hamilton earlier in his career, was that right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He has had 7 different offensive coaches.
Yep.
Sean Lewis, who's now a head coach, I believe San Diego State was his OC in 2023. So this idea that like he can't function aside from Deion, like Deion wasn't coaching him every day.
I mean,
his OCs and quarterbacks coaches were. He was already kind of apart from Deion.
Jaden Daniels' mom was there all this year, and he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. The Arch Manning was around.
Plus, is it the worst thing to be coached by Deion Sanders? Like,
No, and I
Deion
think
Sanders is a really good college football coach.
when you have coaches that are your parents, I've talked to so many people, those are the most critical coaches. Those are the hardest coaches that when you move on, like you are ready to be coached at the highest level or the most scrutinized, like you're already used to that. So I just think that's a lazy way to
It's
maybe
just
make
pushing
an
the
argument
narrative because
that
he's
way.
been around them the entire time. Like Deion chartered a school for Shedeur and his boys. Like, and from there he went to Jackson State to do his thing too. So it's a matter of can he play ball or not for me. Like what his pops do on Sundays and Saturdays is irrelevant as hell because here's the thing: if he comes in and he sucks, he's gone. If he's great, you gonna love him, despite if Deion is there or not.
Yeah.
It wasn't Pat Hamilton. I don't know who else. Oh, I'm thinking of Mike Zimmer.
That
Okay.
was recently, wasn't it?
At Jackson State.
Jackson State, okay.
Jackson State.
That's what I was thinking of.
If he wins, this is Al Davis. Just win, baby, win. Like you're good. That's either one of his quarterbacks.
It was Mike Zimmer's son that was on staff. I don't know who I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm just thinking of Pat Shurmur. But anyway, he's had NFL coaching on the offensive side of the ball for years, his whole career.
Yeah.
From Jackson State to Colorado. Steve in Nashville up next. Hey, Steve.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you this morning?
Good morning.
Great show. I got a couple of points. First of all, Deion Sanders is a good coach. I'm going to strongly disagree, but that beside the point.
Why?
Why?
Yeah. Why?
Look at what he. I'm not gonna. I can do that later, but here's what I wanted to say.
No, I asked you
Brady.
why right now, Steve.
Come on, Steve.
Okay.
Let's go,
what Deion
Steve.
did when he got there. First of all, he gets rid of all his offensive linemen.
Okay.
He's terrible. Look at who he schedules. Look at what he does as a coach.
Okay.
Deion hasn't. Okay.
He took a 1-11 team to 9-4 in 2 years, Steve.
The question. I agree with that. Look at what's around him, though.
Okay, he put that
where he's
around
at.
him. He
Okay.
builds the team.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think the NIL, I think what his polarization does builds a team. I don't think he gets all of it out of the team. That's my point.
That's what Saban did with his rings when he recruited. The polarization of them also. The
I don't
Sarkeesian.
disagree with that. I don't feel as if Deion's a good coach. I didn't call a talk about that. Here's the deal. You guys were talking earlier. The ability to throw a receiver open is what Levis doesn't have. I don't think either one of the two guys behind him do either. It's not a sexy pick. And if Brady says, hey, it's on the quarterback if you get sacked, you still got to fix our offensive line. There's so many holes on this team. Let's start talking on these morning shows and y'all shows about who's out there lineman-wise, who's out there from those standpoints. But here's the other thing. You got to have a guy to put it in the end zone. You got to have playmakers to actually score points in this league. If you look at all the teams that made the playoffs this year, all of them had a couple things. They had a great line. They had a great back, which everybody's devalued now. And they had strong defenses. So this team has so many holes to fill, I don't think you can fill with quarterback.
Thank you, Steve.
One thing I will say, Steve, is I hope you're a loyal listener. But if you have listened to this show, at least since we've been a show over the past 2 years, we talk more about the offensive line, the needs.
Right. I know,
picking
right?
it down to the nittiest, grittiest detail because we have Ramon Foster on the show.
Yeah.
I will say first and foremost, we talk the most about lines than anybody in this entire city. So that was one thing I just wanted to say.
It was a pretty wild
Sorry
call.
about that.
If you take a team from 1-11 to 9-4 in 2 years, you are a good football coach. That's not a matter of opinion. That is a fact. That is a literal fact. If you go from 1-11 in a Power 4 conference to 9-4 in 2 years, you know what you're doing.
And respectfully, too, like the idea that like Deion gets who he gets because of who he is, but every great coach does. Fulmer did it.
If you don't like the
Saban
way
did
Deion
it.
Sanders acts and looks, just say it.
Ryan Day did it.
Just say
They
it.
did it. Yeah.
Just be honest with yourself and with us. Like, it is not a matter of opinion whether or not Deion Sanders is a good football coach.
Yeah.
But
It's just not. I'm sorry.
What do you feel about his point about obviously throwing your wide receivers open?
That I agree with.
Yes,
Will
that I agree.
Levis could not do that.
That I completely agree
Will Levis
with.
rarely threw a receiver
Yes.
open unless that receiver, he was throwing them open like
Correct.
70 yards
And
downfield
really,
over the top of the
Callahan
defense.
said that.
To Tay Gowan.
Call a rating, Bert.
Gooder than hell.
615-737-1045. The headlines of the morning. Jon Robinson is interviewing in Jacksonville. And Coach Matt gives his thoughts on what Travis Hunter will do at the next level. Coming up.
What's going on? 902. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Jacksonville Jaguars getting some interviews in to find their next general manager. One of note for Titans fans, former Titans general manager Jon Robinson. Robinson also interviewed for the Jets general manager job earlier in the cycle, but has not held a position since being fired by the Titans in 2022. To the Bengals, where their defensive captain and leading tackler Jermaine Pratt has requested a trade. Cincinnati has been devoting resources to keeping their offensive core together, and Pratt was close to defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who was fired after last season and since joined the Colts. Pratt ranks 10th in the NFL in tackles this past season with 143 and was one of only 3 players with 140-plus tackles and 6 turnover plays alongside Zach Bond and Zaire Franklin. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show, 9 a.m. in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, although it has not looked super beautiful recently. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling on the phones at 615-737-1045 and online on 1045 The Zone TV. That is where you stream our beautiful faces on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. And you hit the comment section to join the lively discussion. That puts you in the F&M Bank chat. Coach Dave McGinnis earlier this morning says, if I was a corner-needy team, I'm playing Travis Hunter at corner, and then essentially, I'm paraphrasing at this point, slowly implementing him into some offensive schemes. Coach Mack believes that whoever drafts Travis Hunter is drafting him to play both ways. I thought that was very interesting earlier this morning.
It was. I actually was shocked Coach Mack somewhat said that, too. I would have thought he was a play and stay type of guy. Put him on one side of the ball and let him decide and be really good at it. But hearing Coach Mack acknowledge how big of an athlete he is, how talented he is as a prospect also, I think paints a lot of pictures for teams that want to draft a guy like him. It's where you get a real dynamic weapon. It's not just a kick returner. It's not just a corner, not just a wide receiver. You get all of them in one. But it does come down to me, his ability not to get worn down over the course of the season. How do you put him in offensively in the NFL and have him be productive?
Yeah. But the worst thing, that's the worst thing, right? That you have a guy who could potentially help you in multiple ways. And yes, to find a primary position is key one for that. And Coach Mack, I trust with everything. I mean, he's been in the league a long time. He's seen a lot of different things. He's a defensive-minded guy. So I think if that's what Coach Mack feels like he's best suited for as his primary role as a cornerback, I believe 100%. But if you can also then work him into offensive packages, man, that is the true two-for-one deal. And to have a guy like that, too, the football smarts and what he brings along, he also can be up on those banners for your organization when that new stadium
a face
opens.
of the franchise.
Yes.
100%.
Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports reports yesterday that the Jacksonville Jaguars are interviewing Jon Robinson for their vacant general manager position. Of course, the Titans GM from 2016 to 2022, winning seasons in every full season when he was the GM. Fired back in December of 2022. He was an area scout for the Patriots, worked his way up to director of college scouting, and then landed with the Bucs. So familiar with the state of Florida. Player personnel from 2013 to 2015. Do you believe Jon Robinson is a serious candidate for Jacksonville?
I do, considering the names that I've seen, for sure. I think the person that interviewed after him, I was like, who is that individual? I had no idea. But Jacksonville's late in the process. They got to have somebody that comes in with experience that understands this pre-draft just assessment of players. Somebody that's close to the game. Jon Robinson has been close to the game in a sense. As I told you guys earlier, saw him at the Senior Bowl. He's at least putting his eyes on the talent that was down there. I'm not sure if he was being in, preparation for this job as far as being a GM for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he made his rounds with the Jets. Now he's making a very serious one, it seems like, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He knows how to do the job. It's a matter of will he improve on what he did here. And I think, in my personal opinion, from covering this team and being around it, seemed like there was a bunch of ego, power struggle, and just processing of talent that needs to be fixed with a guy like him, especially when it comes to injured players for Jon Robinson.
And you can't look, they're trying to get away from that in Jacksonville. We got to remember that they fired
Trent Baalke.
Thank you. Baalke so late in the season because while he was believed to be the guy that Shad Khan wanted, it was not what anybody else wanted, including coaching candidates that Liam Cohen actually took his name out of the hat and then brought it back in once Baalke was fired. And so you don't want a guy coming in there that's going to cause a lot of dysfunction. That's the main thing, that if you're Jon Robinson, you're going in there and selling yourself the best way you can. And there's going to be questions about what happened up here in Tennessee with Mike Vrabel and maybe the power struggle. So my biggest thing is if he can sell himself, as I am learning, and I've learned the past 2 years from these faults, especially drafting three not good picks in the first round. If he can sell himself, then I think he gets the job. But that is really tough to do in this day and age when you do have other guys that are down there. Ian Cunningham for another candidate that is, been in the mix. I think that's what will separate him, is how well he goes in there to sell himself for the job.
He is definitely a serious candidate. It's actually funny. He is similar background-wise to what Trent Baalke was when Jacksonville hired Trent Baalke. Because Trent Baalke had been a failed general manager in San Francisco from 2011 to 2016. And then went to Jacksonville to be a number 2 and then basically got promoted when they had an opening then. So the Khans are... they have set the precedent. They are willing to hire a GM who has been a GM before and did not succeed elsewhere to do it again. So, again, we talk about overcorrecting a lot. If they want to go with the same type, Jon Robinson would be the most similar to what Trent Baalke was. They'll probably go another direction, though, because you rarely make the same mistake twice in a row in football hires. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you think Jon Robinson will be better because of all the stuff that fell out here? Like his, I felt like was very public and embarrassing too.
I mean,
this is what I'm thinking.
If you want to succeed, you have to.
Yeah.
You can't be crying at press conferences after seasons anymore.
And you can't be rolling the dice on injured players.
Yeah.
Can't.
Well, you can. You just gotta make other picks then though too that can fill in for that guy if and when they get hurt. And neither of those things happen here.
In his last class, what did he leave you? Who's the last one left? Roger? Yeah.
Roger's the most prominent one, right?
I
the
think
last
he's
good player that Jon Robinson left you?
And Ratings. I was talking about like last class.
The last class.
The last class.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Ratings and Roger?
And Traylon Burks.
Oh, God, let's not say that.
Boom, 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 boom.
Initially, excited.
Yeah.
He fit what Vrabel, I thought, wanted, was a physical, big wide receiver that also is going to be able to block, too. And that probably was the worst thing that you can do in this situation.
Reporter Ryan Burr on Twitter this morning, who his bio says Big Ten Network Hoops, PGA Tour Live, owner NB3JGNC, I don't know. He's got 21,000 followers. Says that the Steelers have contacted the Jacksonville Jaguars about a trade for Trevor Lawrence. Interesting. Says Steelers have made inquiries to the Jags about a trade for QB Trevor Lawrence. This directly from the horse's mouth in the Jags organization. Wow. I know Andrew Filipponi, a radio host up in Pittsburgh, he put this out there and said, per excellent sports reporter, and then tagged Ryan Burr. None of the national guys have this. This is not a Rappaport or a Schefter, not something that is like on the record, take it as gospel, but is certainly interesting.
Yeah.
I reached out to a few of my sources, hitting another one right now because he has no trade clause in his contract.
Trevor Lawrence, right?
Trevor Lawrence.
And the money would not work to trade him from Jacksonville's perspective.
And you also got a new head coach that has to figure it out for himself too, right? As far as, hey, I got a guy. It's the same thing we said about, what's his name? Johnson is going to Chicago. He's got his quarterback. Ben Johnson, he's got his quarterback. So one of my guys up there in the market says Saunders is one of his favorite people in Pittsburgh sports, but he does a lot of clickbait stuff lately. So he think Saunders. There's another guy that's reporting it. Alan Saunders is his name.
Oh, okay.
Said, but he's generating content off a report that's already said. But this is what he also said about Saunders. He's on the beat. He's at the facility every single day as it pertains to the Steelers, and he has had a pulse on the things that have been happening with Pittsburgh too. But he's running with this Ron Burr report, who's a golf guy in his profile.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Interesting. The money for trading Trevor Lawrence is crazy.
What is it?
The dead cap hit for Trevor Lawrence in 2025 would be $133 million.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I hit somebody that was real close to the Jacksonville situation. They laughed and said, LOL, I can't see that happening.
That's hilarious. Okay.
But the report was, to be fair, the Steelers have reached out.
Sure.
Reached out.
It doesn't say anything about the Jags want to or the Jags were into it. It's just, no, the Steelers inquired. And that I can believe.
Yeah.
Because
they need to find a quarterback.
If I'm the Steelers, I want to put it out there that we're interested and encourage Trevor Lawrence's camp to say we are also interested.
We'll drop.
Yeah.
Because once you get the player to start to say, hey, I would rather do that, and you get a Matthew Stafford situation just earlier in his career, because he's only 26, Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
You can create a little bit of demand there, but I would be shocked if that happened.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. With Aaron Rodgers for free, the Steelers could just go grab Aaron Rodgers. Don't worry about adding another quarterback. You have to give something up? Just go get Aaron Rodgers, Mom.
Oh, my God.
The only party this makes sense for is Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Yeah. They'd be a whole lot better if they actually had something to give up. Like if Justin Fields was under contract, then you can go, okay, we'll give you a player for a player plus take the money. But this one, it looked like it's
Jacksonville would kind of get hosed.
Yeah. And then you're also setting Liam Cohen up for the worst.
Disaster.
Also, who are they contacting? Like, Jacksonville doesn't have a GM. Are they calling the owner? Like, who do you inquire?
That's another good point.
Who do you call?
Front desk.
You just Google Jacksonville Jaguars phone number and call them. Hey, what would you have to get to send us Trevor? They don't even have a GM.
I'm going to have to get back to you on
what
that.
do we?
Mm-hmm. It would have to be Shad Khan.
It is. We're in like a weird couple weeks where between the Super Bowl and the Combine and free agency.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
We're just making stuff up.
It's like the week of lies.
I'm not saying the reporting is totally fake, but like,
you're going to have to prove to me that this is serious.
There's a big burden to prove
and again,
to prove
half
that that's
of it
going
could
on.
be. Absolutely. I mean, of course, the Steelers probably have interest in bringing over Lawrence. I would.
Coming up, a couple of you wanted to react to our quarterback traits discussion and respond to the caller from the last segment who had advice for us and for Colorado and for all these morning shows out there. So we can let you do that. And react to the topic on what traits you want in a QB. Plus, I want to talk a little bit of Vols because I think there's an interesting discussion to be had about Rick Barnes and Tennessee basketball. A lot of you guys are really quick to sharpen the pitchforks on Tennessee hoops. Who's closer to a title? Tennessee football or basketball? Talk about that next.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Like maybe your sidewalk is shifting or your driveway is cracked and sinking, or maybe your porch steps have moved. Shifting concrete can create a dangerous hazard and trip hazard around your house, all right? It's also just a big eyesore. It's Ramon Foster. Whatever's going on with your concrete, listen to me. Call United Structural Systems. Ask them about their polyurethane foam injections. And you've heard about USS for a long time, too. They're the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, they can also fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injections to lift and repair your sinking concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete also can be walked on after about 30 minutes can be walked on immediately or driven on after about 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Reach out to the folks that I trust at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com or call them 615-488-7855 United Structural Systems.
RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will live on 104.5 The Zone and streaming live on Zone TV. You get us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, and when you join the comment section, you join the F&M Bank chat. 615-737-1045. Going to talk some Tennessee athletics. Who's closer to winning a national title, Tennessee football or Tennessee basketball? And depending on how you answer, there are some conversations we're going to have from that.
Yeah.
But first, let's go back to the phones, talking about QB traits and what you want in your next NFL draft prospect QB. X is in Knoxville this morning. What's up, X?
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing today?
Great.
Good morning.
Okay, number one, Steve, I want to know who made him mad because it's too early to call and be doing all that barking in line because every show out here talk about linemen. Every show.
That's true.
Even Buck hating ass, he talk about
Facts,
Yeah,
X.
because Buck be hating on the Titans, but with a quarterback, you need somebody who can be a leader, somebody who can compete, and then you got to have somebody that their character. Because their character, you got to think about the free agency. You got character going to get you a mile away. And y'all have a good day.
You do.
Thank you.
Put X in the favorite caller list.
Yeah, but
Approval rating going to go
Yes.
up.
X moves up the list a little bit, man.
X going to give it to you when he calls in.
X going to give it. Rest in peace.
Give it to you.
DMX.
Johnny in Murfreesboro up next. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call this morning. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hey, I got a quick little bone to pick with this last couple callers ago. Old Steve. If your name is Steve, if it rhymes with Steve, if it sounds like Steve, don't call back. You just sound like a teetotal moron on TV. Here's the reason why I want to say this. Deion can coach. And the reason why he can coach is in 2011, he's a Hall of Famer. I guarantee it, Steve was watching primetime then. That's the point of being in Colorado. There's a lot of eyes on these guys now. If I was still in high school, I'd want to go play with him because more NFL scouts are watching Colorado to see what primetime can do. Everybody has hated on primetime his whole career. They want to see him fail, but yet he continues to prove people wrong time after time again.
No doubt.
Appreciate y'all taking my call. Have a great day.
Thank you, Johnny.
There you go, Johnny.
That's the
think you're
point,
totally
though.
right.
It's just like sometimes people just want to be around you, too, and that's prospects also.
It's just, if you missed it, a caller named Steve called in and said Deion Sanders is not a good coach, to dispute a point that I had made, and said all he does is just benefit from who he is and his personality just to get a lot of talent.
Well, he also
The
said
crazy
we don't
thing
talk
was,
about linemen.
he was
Sorry.
going to agree with you with his second point,
I know.
but then I think you ticked him off, and he was like,
He had me in the first half.
And we did agree with this point about, you need a
Levis can't throw
quarterback.
guys
Yeah,
open,
they
is what
can
he
throw
said.
guys open because that's something Will Levis couldn't do. So we did agree with you, Steve, on
They
one part.
did. To his point, Will brought it up like they were 4-8 in the first year. Last year they was 9-4 and they tied first in the Big 12.
And before he got there, they were 1-11.
Exactly. Like there's
Did he get too much hype the first year? Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the
right?
point. But
he then followed
you
it
know
up
what-
with
you
winning.
know what that hype did? Brought a lot of dollars
Sure.
to Boulder, Colorado. To this point, they're Notre Dame of the Big 12 right now. Every single game they had was a nationally televised game, whether it was being kicked off at 10 o'clock at night or whether they had the primetime 11 o'clock game. Like you saw them, like the branding of it for a team that was buried.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know Colorado had good football. Period.
back in the
never
day, they
have.
did.
Well,
Back in
other
the
than
day,
a couple
they
years in
What
the
was it,
90s.
90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run, Ralphie, run. Yeah, I mean, like saying that a coach isn't good because they just benefit from their personality and their buzz. Like,
Yeah.
that's part of it. Not everyone has personality. You know who else did that? Bill Belichick. He won a lot of Super Bowls.
You know who else is doing it right now that you can like side eye? Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's called recruiting.
Lane and kids
ABC always be recruiting.
always be recruiting. These young athletes love that though.
Yeah,
like at some
maybe-
point you
We're
want to
in
see
a,
the
that's a good point. We're in a different day and age
you
I
want
think
to
recruiting's always been
with
like
football.
that.
No, but I'm just talking about
the optics.
Yeah. It's almost like the more of that, like you're out there and you're loud. Like that's just kind of how it is nowadays with the money, and you want to really sell your school at a whole different level. And if you can have a personality that does that and can coach,
Yeah.
you're really benefiting.
Switching gears.
You know who's got a great personality? Rick Barnes.
There you go.
Oh,
Transition.
Look at that. Speaking of a guy that can do it at a different age
I was
too,
waiting.
right?
I was
He's
waiting.
still balling.
Who's closer to winning a national championship? Tennessee basketball or football?
To me, it's always basketball. Rick Barnes is. It's,
Really?
it's simple. You need one. You need one in
That's
basketball.
what Mark Few's been saying at Gonzaga for several years.
They've been to more. They've been to Final
to national
Fours.
championship
But
games.
that's just the point. It is so hard to win it all.
But to the point of winning the championship is hard. It's only one. You're right.
Sure, at every level it is,
To
right?
actually get to the Final Four in March Madness, I think there's a coach right now at what's the school he played? Mark Few's or what's his name?
Which one?
Recent national championship.
Football or
No,
basketball?
and basketball.
UConn?
Connecticut. Danny Hurley.
Yeah.
Hurley. I said Mark Few's.
Okay.
Who the hell am I talking about this one?
That's all right.
Danny
I got a lot of
Hurley.
names.
Dan Hurley has become the biggest tool to me, I feel like, in all of sports at this point.
Sorry, I took that the wrong way.
No, he and it's because he's won the
Yes, I
championships
get
and
what
like
you're
his system of doing it. But it takes one player. Cooper Flagg right now got Duke rolling. There's been numerous players that come through college basketball. You say to yourself, if I get him in my building, we going all the way to the show. He's been one of those guys. And that's why I think it's easier for basketball to do it, barring injuries, than it is for football. So if we're talking about the Vols right now, I think Coach Barnes is closer to a national championship than football than Josh Heupel is. And it's on the basis of you still got Georgia. That's like, it's a harder pathway to a championship in football than it is in basketball right now.
It's really hard for me.
Because you just need one guy.
I get that, and there's a smaller roster. That's a good point. There's a smaller roster. You don't have to control as much, but it's almost why they call it March Madness, right? Because it is so wild that I think so many times, even first and second rounds, and we've seen this with the Vols in the past, even when they've had really good teams, one matchup can completely derail a team. Yeah. And you can have a good enough roster to go and win a championship, but sometimes one matchup can just knock you off that. And that's what's so hard about the NCAA tournament. Not saying that college football is not hard to win the championship. The only reason I'd say, I guess I'll give football a slight advantage at this point, guys, is I don't know how much longer Rick Barnes wants to coach. And when I look at Heupel and, he's still young in terms of what he wants to do here, there's a little bit more time, I feel like. And I do feel that much confidence in Nico Iamaleava that he could even start to turn things around next year with his potential.
His growth.
And his growth. And I know that they've got to fix some things around him, the wide receivers, the offensive line. We've got to see what happens with that. I believe so much in Nico Iamaleava, though, that I feel like I'm going to give them a slight advantage in football to win first.
I think it's basketball, and I think it's for one reason, recruiting. Tennessee football is not recruiting at a national championship level.
Yeah,
there's not. I mean, and that level is tough. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that it's not an exact science. Like, you can create a great relationship with Francis Mauigoa and Jordan Seaton when they're freshmen and sophomores and do all the right things. And sometimes the kid just doesn't pick you. Like, it is what it is. But Tennessee basketball is recruiting at a higher level more consistently than Tennessee football is. And in college athletics, that is the name of the game. So I think it's first and foremost, Josh Heupel and his staff have to do a better job either recruiting high school or the transfer portal. And now that other teams have caught up to them in NIL, I think that's only going to get tougher. The other side of it is, even if it's not Rick Barnes to lead them to a title, Rick Barnes has left Tennessee basketball in such a better place than where he found it. Yeah. And Danny White's track record of picking basketball coaches is pretty dang good.
True.
Pretty dang good.
That I would believe in.
I think whoever is after Rick Barnes takes them to their first Final Four.
So kind of the way you look at Calipari to Mark Pope at Kentucky.
Well, I'm not ready to say that yet about Mark Pope.
The continuation of expectation.
Like, it's almost like they had their guy.
What you're saying is Tennessee wouldn't fall off bad if Rick left because the standard of play and also the branding that he's helped Tennessee
He's built the infrastructure of an elite college basketball program.
Yes.
I bring all this up because I think Tennessee fans need to lay off Rick Barnes.
What you mean?
I think the fan base is far too quick to run him out of town. And I know that Twitter is not real life, but it's people I talk to as well. Tennessee fans still have this obsession with Bruce Pearl that I just don't get. And I know that Auburn is number one right now, and they deserve it. But for all the talk about Rick Barnes not winning in March. Bruce Pearl recently has not won in March at Auburn.
That's
Ever
the
since
thing.
his Final Four run. They got knocked out by Yale in the first round last year. Wasn't it Yale? Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was Yale.
It was Yale.
They've gone on a slip and slide.
Now
at the
that
end of the
Rick
year.
Barnes has gone as far as Bruce Pearl ever had at Tennessee,
Yeah.
I don't understand ever looking at the X and the old thing and wanting it back. And to me, it's the juxtaposition of Tennessee football is fun, it's exciting, it's offense, wasn't really as much this past year, and Rick Barnes is the antithesis of that. It's defense, it's old-fashioned, it's hard-nosed, it's rebounding, it's a lot of those things. And, I think too many of you guys want to be entertained versus win. And many of you are watching Kentucky being like, man, I wish we could do that just because they beat you twice. Well, Kentucky also is one game over 500 in SEC play and is probably going to get bounced in the first or second round because they can't defend. They do not play defense except for Tennessee. That's the only team they can defend. I think you guys got to lay off Rick Barnes. I have numbers to back it up that we'll get to in a minute. But Tennessee basketball is your best chance of winning a national title again now that baseball has. I don't think it's close. I think they are so much closer than football, and they are, even after that loss Tuesday, Lenardi has them the 5th overall team. They are still right there for a 1 seed.
I don't know, though. I mean, your team made the college football playoff, and I know that it wasn't a good matchup, but whose matchup was good with Ohio State this year? Nobody.
It was,
and I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that was misconstrued in terms of maybe what people think of, that college football playoff. It's almost like it didn't mean anything. I honestly feel if they had a different matchup, it could have gone a different way. But Ohio State bought their entire roster, and credit to them, they turned it on when they needed to turn it on.
It's not just Ohio State, though. It's Georgia. Josh Heupel can't beat Georgia.
It's Alabama again, too. Well, Georgia, too.
Alabama on the road.
Georgia.
So it's not just the Ohio State game in the playoff. It's the fact that you're not recruiting on Georgia's level and you're having trouble beating them. That Georgia game in Neyland this year, early in the season, you can't overstate how big that's going to be for both of those programs. Mm-hmm. Georgia reloading again with a new quarterback. Tennessee with a lot of new faces on the offensive line and at wide receiver, where Nico needs to just win you some games himself. You cannot overemphasize how important that game is for Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm with you. I don't think Rick Barnes needs to get all this hate, guys. Again, it is so tough for some of the best coaches in the country that have gotten really close to even win a championship. It's hard.
The other side, well, you mentioned, that's the reason also for me, the recruiting of stars who does matter. Right now, you even mentioned the other two. Texas got 5 stars right now. Mm-hmm. Georgia's got 4. Alabama's got 3. And if we believe in what Kalen DeBoer is selling, eventually he's going to get his quarterback and run his offense. Oregon's got 3. Ohio State got another 3 with 15 4-stars.
Florida and Auburn recruited better than you this past season, according to a lot of recruiting services. And they were one was barely in a bowl game, the other one wasn't.
And they got DJ Lagway at Florida. Now, we also got Nico Iamaleava, too. Yeah. Now, I'm with you. I believe in the Vols. I do think too. They're going to go compete and win. It is a matter of me. It's strategy at this point for me. If that offense grows more legs, is all I've been asking for, and they find protection for Nico too, then yes, I believe this team can compete and get to the Final Four of the college football playoffs. Now, passing that threshold of winning one, that's tough. It just is in especially in football, because you need health, you need luck, you need big plays.
And now they're playing a lot longer.
Yeah. By the way, y'all know Bruce Pearl's accolades at Auburn as it pertains to basketball too, with so much prestige putting on him.
One Final Four.
You remember when?
It was 2019.
18-19. Yes. That was the last time. You know how many Final Fours he has?
One,
right?
Yeah. He had the Elite Eight at Tennessee, and it was until last year he was the only coach to ever take Tennessee to the Elite Eight.
Winning the regular season, Rick Barnes has done the SEC. Post, what we're learning in the SEC tournament is, you want to get in and get out.
Yeah.
18. So he missed the tournament the first 3 years at Auburn. I went 0-11 also in conference play at Auburn, too, before he finally got it. He got knocked out round of 32 and 17-18. Final Four the next year. COVID year happens. 2021 didn't happen. All right, round of 32 again. And last year, you were right.
Yeah. He's not made it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament in 6 years.
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl.
In the words of Jermaine Cole, love yours.
Yeah.
So here is the info I have on why you should appreciate Rick Barnes more. Tennessee has been in the top 10 for 12 straight weeks. That is the fourth longest streak ever. 4 of Tennessee's 6 all-time double-figure streaks over the last 7 seasons have been under Rick Barnes. 70th time in Rick Barnes' 10-year tenure that Tennessee is ranked in the top 10, including 35 times. Guys, 35 times Tennessee's ranked in the top 5. You know how many times Tennessee was ranked in the top 5 before Rick Barnes took over? 17 times in school history.
Oof.
He has doubled the amount of times you've ever been ranked in the top 5 in just his tenure. Tennessee is in the top 25 for a 74th straight week. That spans 4 seasons, beginning with the 2021-22 preseason poll. That doubles the program record of 37 straight weeks from 99 to 01. Shout out Ron Slay.
Yeah.
74 weeks in a row, Tennessee has been ranked. That is the third longest active streak in the country. Only Houston and Kansas have spent longer times in consecutive weeks ranked in the top 25.
Wow.
Houston, Kansas, and Tennessee. No other team is even at 55 weeks straight being in the top 25. Kentucky at 36 straight weeks. And again, Auburn had a down year in that span where they weren't a tournament team.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add to it also, too. Bruce has actually gone backwards.
Yeah.
Barnes
Which is what he did at
for it.
Tennessee,
Now,
too.
I'm hoping, hear me out. In 2021, 22, he went round of 6-4, got knocked out first round. We remember that.
Yep.
Round of 32 the following year. He went Sweet 16, 22, 23, and last year was the Elite 8.
So Final Four this season. Book it.
Book it.
Book your tickets.
Can I bet on that?
Tennessee has
That's
been
what I'm saying. He's moving up.
Tennessee has been ranked in the top 15 in 48 of the last 51 AP polls. A top 15 team in 48 of the last 51 AP polls.
Yep.
Tennessee basketball, I think, will win a national championship before Tennessee football will. 615-737-1045. Your chance to react. Headlines on the way out as we wrap up the show next. RKW wrapping up the show this morning on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Rising has you covered coming up next. And tomorrow on your Friday morning, Brett Hubbs of VolQuest as always. And Ron Slay.
Hey.
Coming up in the 4th hour tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Let's go to Aaron in Jacksonville, wanting to talk about Trevor Lawrence here on the program. What's up, Aaron?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I was actually going to call in before you guys started talking about Trevor because of the whole JRob thing. The people down here in Jacksonville do not want him. They think he will trade Brian Thomas Jr. for $10. So they're not very happy about that. However, since you guys brought up Trevor Lawrence, did you guys know, because you guys were talking about, well, who would they call if they wanted him? They have a trade breaker in Jacksonville. His name is Tony Baselli. What happened is whenever they hired Liam Cohen, the news about him getting hired as vice president kind of got buried.
Yep.
So he is actually the Chad Brinker of Jacksonville Jaguars, Tony Baselli.
Okay.
Baselli,
Nice,
I saw that.
Aaron.
I
Okay.
did see that announcement. I didn't know what to think of it, though, with Baselli. Like,
Thank
he's
you, Aaron. Appreciate the call.
been around that organization for a while. Like, he's a gold jacket guy
Sure.
for them.
The more you know here.
I didn't realize
good
he was
heads
going to
up.
have that type of flex, though.
Happened a week ago yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Baselli
Gotcha.
got named.
So he's like a Chad Brinker, like you said. He's kind
Is
of
he?
the right-hand man.
Well, just in terms of the VP that is the highest ranking right now because they don't have a GM, but he doesn't have as much experience as a personnel guy that Chad had
It's an operation.
when Chad took that job is the difference. At least I don't think. I didn't think Tony Baselli was like a scout.
I
Okay.
thought he was just a scout, too. I thought he was doing some of the media stuff and, like, field optic stuff. I didn't know he was front office, like, with them, or he would even be considered that. But he got a lot of football knowledge and respect, too.
Yeah, no, he started as an exec now.
He is.
So this is his like first kind of big exec
Okay.
job.
Well, I need somebody to believe in me like that.
Right? Just takes one, man.
kid.
2022
Just takes
Pro
one.
Football Hall of Famer. He was knocking on the door for years, too.
Yeah, he was.
He was a big hot
Good for
topic
him.
in that circle for a little while.
And a menace on the field.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Here's fun words that are easier for us to say now since he doesn't play here. Did you guys see what AJ Brown posted on social media?
Which one?
I skated over
Which
it a
thing?
little bit.
So this was the other day talking about winning the Super Bowl. And essentially said, I don't care about all that. I want more yards. Kind of, not really. It is funny, though, coming from him. He said, after a few days, I've had time to reflect on being a champion. I tried to feel how everyone made it seem to be a champion, and unfortunately, it was short-lived. 2 days to be exact. LOL. I've never been a champion at the highest level before, but I thought my hard work would be justified by winning it all. It wasn't. My thrill for this game comes when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it. It's when the DB drops his head and surrender because he can't mess with me. The intense battles, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices. I love putting smiles on people's faces. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It's the journey that I love the most. Back to work.
Oh,
Sounds
AJ.
like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's talked about that like when he won the first one, he was like, really? That's it?
He's just built it. I mean, AJ's different. I
Mamba mentality.
really like AJ Brown. I do. And he's also done a lot of good things for the community in terms of depression. Let's remind everybody of that too. He's a competitor. And if he doesn't feel like he was his best in that game, it's not necessarily like me. It's like me in terms of I need to do better.
I hear
right?
me.
But that's okay in terms of
I know
a
it
wide
is, but like
receiver, in
publicly
my eyes.
making, like, did Brady make a post about this, or was this said after he retired?
He's in a different
though?
day.
He talked about it while he played.
He did? Like, immediately after, though, it's just like, no, celebrate the team. Like, I know what AJ's getting at. Like, his justification is his work he puts in, but he also, like, had a touchdown in that game.
Yeah, I think AJ is just AJ, and you have to accept
Coming
it for
from
what
a
it
wide
is.
receiver who is notorious for demanding the ball, it reads a bit differently than a quarterback that just led his team to that.
It's easier for him to say that after he's gotten that ring. too.
Right.
That's the other side of it. So, and real
He's
quick, I
always
was going
gonna
to
be
cut you off before you did it. So, do some good before you say some bad. He also brought a whole family down from his little boy, I think, to protect his sister from like debris from a plane crash.
Yeah.
And protected her, and I think he had to have surgery.
And
And stuff.
again,
So, he does do a lot
He's done
of good.
stuff for the mental illness situations too with society.
I
so.
looked at AJ and was like, really, bro? Let us enjoy this one first for a little while. I get it. Ultimate
It's
competitor, et
okay.
cetera, et cetera.
That's the Kobe Bryant mentality of you don't love the results, to love the grind.
He's won one.
Do you have to announce it, though? Go back to work.
That's the thing is if you really love the grind, you don't post about it on social media. You just go back to work.
I love the drama there, man. It's so fun to talk about.
Yeah, but as a team, all I see is this situation is he might actually create a whole lot of fluff and find himself being wide receiver one in another situation. Maybe he doesn't want to share it around because before he actually got that touchdown, he blew up on the sideline like that too.
Oh, he's
that's the characteristics of a NFL diva wide receiver.
Like making a statement to say like this isn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be back to work isn't the problem. It's AJ Brown saying it. So like, all right. I like to end the show sometime with show recommendations. Obviously, you all know I'm hooked on Severance, and that is a show that if you're not watching it, you're missing one of the best television shows in generations. Genuinely generational TV. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Paradise on Hulu.
My brother watches that too.
Very good.
Yeah.
I am 1.5 episode in. I've started to fade and fall asleep a little bit. That's how you know you're about to get a good night's sleep, by the way. When you're sitting on the couch watching something you like, you start to doze off like, I hit my energy level perfectly today to sleep well. Sterling K. Brown is one of the best actors in the game right now. He is the main character.
Paradise. It's only like 3 episodes or something.
There are 5 episodes that have been released so far, and it is a season of, I believe, 8 episodes that ends in a couple of weeks. Very good.
I don't have any shows to recommend, but do you guys want to hear Kayla and Ramon, what it would sound like if they were warming up to sing?
Do it.
Me, right?
Me.
That's what it would sound like if you got too much power.
You got too much power, man.
Wait, we didn't hear his chili story.
Now you'll have to wait now.
You did have
tomorrow morning, Bert may have committed theft in this building.
I might not be able to hold it in.
He might not be able to be here.
I might have to tell somebody today.
You also may not be able to hold in what you consumed.
Me, right?
Me.
Because it's going to move quickly through you.
I hate you, Bert. I hate you.
Well, anyway, tune in tomorrow morning for a story of how Robert Walsh might have made someone a lot hungrier today.
Bert the Scammer, too, is also his name with the emails that he got.
Hardly know her.
If you missed it, you can check out the podcast.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That was pro right there, Kay.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
Me.
We need the tomorrow. We need to effort the. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about I want to talk about me. And it's just both their voices. I'm not trying to give you more work. I'm sorry. Coming up tomorrow morning, Brett Hubbs and Ron Slay. Not a football Friday for the first time.
I know.
That's
we got to
weird.
wait for the next UFL game. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. Back at it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.
Hey, y'all know how it goes, man. Your Twitter fingers and your mic always hot, baby.
Me, right?
Me.